Hey everybody, it's D. Whately here, and today I'm going to be starting a tutorial for Story Mode All Levels in Super Monkey Ball 2. Now, I'm going to be kind of doing a beginner-friendly tutorial, so I'm going to be showing off some more consistent strats and maybe not top-level strats here. And starting off with World 1 and simple, you can just hold up. You don't have to hold up from the beginning, you can bounce a couple of times, you can throw some neutral input in there, up left, up right. You know, you don't have to go full speed. But if you're playing on a GameCube controller and you see the up notch, you can just put the analog stick in the up notch and you'll get a 53-18 every single time if you hold up from the beginning. Now I will introduce boosting, where we will be holding up left and up right, and we'll be hitting the walls kind of with a specific, kind of at a specific place and holding a specific direction. As you see, I got a 53-73 there instead of a 53-18, so it is faster, and that was a pretty slow attempt. So you can get sometimes 54s, but usually you'll get a 53.9, 53.8. And the reason why you go faster there is because if you're holding up left and up right instead of up in the air, the monkey goes faster because the diagonal inputs are farther away from neutral. And you can get some speed going off the walls there, although sometimes the walls in this game are not the greatest. So moving on to hollow here, here's the casual strat where you're just kind of running around the hollow, and you'll see kind of this wall here, so you can get a little bit of momentum and go up the wall. You don't need the momentum, but some people might like to do it just in case they feel like they might not make it over that little hump there. However, the speedrun strat is really not that difficult, so I'm going to go ahead and show it off here. So you just kind of skip this entire platform, and if you saw my input display here, I threw a little bit of neutral in there, and I took pretty small walls. The reason why I do that is because sometimes you can get a speed bump and hit a higher part of that scoop. So I'll show you sort of what I mean here. So if you don't go as fast off of this platform, you'll hit like a lower portion of this scoop. If you go a little bit faster and you get a speed bump, you might hit like the upper portion of this scoop. So sometimes it might be a little bit harder to make it over if you go a little bit too fast. So that's why I like taking these walls kind of narrow. And then if you get a lot of height there like I did, just make sure to throw some neutral in there because you can end up bouncing and hitting the party ball, or maybe even potentially going off of the platform there. So just make sure to throw some neutral in there if you decide to do that strat. Now we're on to bumpy, and you can just hold up and make an adjustment. However, it is a little bit faster and sort of the exact same setup. If you, while in the air, throw a little bit of a neutral flick in there and make an upright adjustment, you'll get like a really low 51 or a really high 50 every time. There are some boosting patterns on bumpy. However, bumpy can get really, really complicated, and the collisions can send you in so many different directions that in order to just start out with Super Monkey Ball 2 story mode, I would just recommend that beginning strat. Now for switches, what I would do is I would hold up into the button, and then you can just get the blue goal here. You can add a boosting pattern into here, so boost a little bit before that corner of the second like square on the ground, if you will. And obviously you can get about a 52-3 or 52-4 with that strat. However, you will realize that when you run over buttons in this game, sometimes it just doesn't want to click, or you might graze the side of the button, or it's really hard to tell sometimes, so you just have to make sure that you hear the click there. Hopefully you heard that. And if you do not press the button, go into the edge here, you'll see this kind of platform. You're not able to go anywhere, so if you're not playing with audio, you'll know that you can go once those kind of ears go down, if you saw there. And finally, what I will say is that there is a button here for the green goal. For story mode, I wouldn't really recommend this strat for a while. at a top level, like if you are doing this strat, it could save maybe a second or so from the boosted version of the blue goal strat, so it really isn't worth adding for a long time. Now for conveyors, you can just hold up again. You can be directly in that up GameCube notch. Once again, if you're not using a GameCube controller, this is something that's pretty relaxed and you don't need to be in the up notch specifically. This is also another stage where you can add in a boosting pattern here and get a faster time. And in fact, pretty much every stage you can do some sort of boosting and you'll get a faster time. So the main gimmick of this stage, however, it's not just free, you don't just go on the goal. If you go really slow, and try and run over some of these conveyors, you will get sent backwards. So you can't just kind of stop here and then expect to get to the goal here. You really have to send it all the way. Okay, so for floaters here, there really is only one strat that you could do. There are a couple of different paths that you can take, however, and really, I wouldn't recommend other paths. You can get a low or mid 52 if you do take this path. I took it a little bit aggressive, so let me show you what it looks like if you're a little bit more conservative here. I did get some speed bumps there as well, so sometimes that does not happen and you get a little bit of slower time. And that's what it looks like if you take it a little bit more conservative. You really just want to separate yourself from the holes in the ground and from the squares so that you don't bonk. Now let's show off a different path that you can take where you can kind of go around here. It is a slower time, so once again, like I said, I would just recommend the other path that I took, and the main gimmick there is you just kind of avoid the squares and the holes in the ground. Now for slopes, there are a couple of different strats that you can do here. I'll show you the difference between holding up and holding up left and up right on the hill. So notice how I'm holding up here. The turn there was a little bit bad, and I'm getting a low 45 there. Now notice what happens when I hold up left and up right onto these hills. It's going to be a pretty significant difference in time here. Now I'm going to hold up left here, kind of holding up right, switching back to up left. And that saved pretty much a second there just from good hills. So just note that holding up left and up right on the wall there is a little bit faster, or on the hill, excuse me, than just holding up. Now you could do this mini skip here where you could kind of see some potential for a full skip, and if you notice that there is potential for a full skip, you'd be right, because there is. If you're not comfortable with the most optimized version of the full skip, you can get a couple of walls here, you can go backwards, and then you could just kind of hit those ramps here and then go up. You can get maybe a mid or high 50, or sometimes even a 51. However, the most optimized version of the strat is you just hold up left into this wall, you hold up right into that wall, and then it's kind of common practice to take the right ramp instead of the middle ramp on this strat. However, the middle ramp still does work. The way you fail this strat is if you hold up right too early. This still might work because I had a good second wall, but as you saw, it was a lot closer, and it is not really up to you if you get a good second wall there. So as you see, I kind of set it up the same, and it was a significantly different outcome. So just make sure you're holding up left into the wall, or just ever so slightly before it. And you saw my walls were pretty bad there, but I should still be able to make it up. And you know, once again, the game gives you really bad walls every once in a while, but as long as you're holding up left into that first wall, you should be good. So now for sliders, there are a couple of different ways you could do this strat, and I'll show off the casual strat in the beginning. The main gimmick about this stage is that the slopes get a little bit more steep as you go on, so it starts out pretty shallow, and you could just hold up. You really don't have to worry about like falling off here, and you can kind of like optimize the turn by going a little bit fast here. But it just kind of gets to a point where you do need to hold down, especially for the last two turns. And then this last straightaway here, you can kind of just hold neutral, and the game will place you in the direction where you need to, just as long as you're not kind of going crazy onto that last straightaway. Additionally, I thought I would bring this up, but I wouldn't really recommend it. There are some miniature skips that you could do here, like this. However, I wouldn't really recommend this. If you're gonna do a miniature skip, you might as well do a full skip. So let me go ahead and show that off. And here's what the full skip would look like. This isn't the most optimized version of the skip. However, it is pretty easy to set up. And as you see there, I wasn't really aligned with the goal that much, but I was still able to make an adjustment because of how much time it gives you when you do see the goal. So I'm going to purposely put myself at a bad angle here. I'll go way too far here, and then I noticed the goal, and then I could change my direction. I had a lot of speed there that I didn't realize, but even if you do hit the backboard, oftentimes you can still go in the goal there. So even if I retried, or even though I retried, I still could get in the goal there. So once again, I was purposely putting myself at a bad angle just so that as soon as I see the goal, I still can tell you that I have enough time to adjust to get in there. So I'll show this off one more time, giving myself a good angle this time, just to kind of give you a good sense of where you should be headed, and that is how you do that strat. Now for spinning top, there are a couple of different ways that you could do this. There's not really too many different strats. So you can go up the hill here. You could sort of wait for the spinning top to rise up on the right side of the platform and then go. Just know that the spinning top is first open on the left. And if you're comfortable with boosting, even if you don't have the greatest turn, so I'll show off a purposely bad turn here, even if you don't have the greatest turn, you could still go on the left side. So that was even a 49.5. There are some people that could get a 50.2 or 50.3 on the strat, and I'll show off a little bit more of an optimized turn here. But even if your turn isn't the greatest, or even if you don't boost, you can go on that left side for the first cycle. So this is really what I would recommend for you to start out with. And now for curve bridge, there are really only two strats that you could do here. There's curve bridge first cycle and there's curve bridge second cycle. I'm going to go ahead and show off second cycle in the beginning. Second cycle is really comfy. You don't need to push any turn. You really don't need to push it at all. There's no clips that you need to get. Really, you just need to follow the path here and just stay on it. This isn't a wire. This is a large enough platform to where it isn't a wire. So you don't really need to worry about falling off too much. Once again, just get here before it hits like 24, because when it goes to 24.0, you can hold up and then get to the end of the platform. Here you can sort of optimize this movement at the end. And additionally, I'm going to go ahead and show off first cycle. This is a lot harder, and I wouldn't really recommend doing this in runs in the beginning. I would maybe play around with this and try and get good at the movement, because it really teaches you how to optimize turns. But once again, this isn't something that I would add into runs for a long time. And I think there's sort of a rumor going around that you do need a clip in order to get this strat done. Really, all you need is a good last turn and sort of optimized turns there. So as you saw, maybe I got a miniature clip on the last turn. The last turn is extremely important in order to make this strat work, but really, you don't need any clips in order to get it done. And now, that is it for World 1, and I will go ahead and see you in World 2. Alright, so we're going to go ahead in World 2 and start out with banks. So there are two main strats that you could do here. You could do the casual strat, which is you just kind of go around. I got a clip there, but you don't need it. I would recommend going on the inside, especially for the second turn, because it's easier and faster. You'd probably get about a 44 or so if you were to go on the outside. However, there's a skip here that really isn't that difficult. Just as long as you get off at that edge, you can kind of just boost, take a left wall here, and then just kind of hold up a little bit and make some minor adjustments. You can do this skip while holding up. However, I wouldn't recommend it. It's harder and a little bit slower. And just to clarify here, you're going off of this first edge here. A lot of people find it intuitive to try and go off the second edge here, but I will show you what happens when you try and go off the second edge. You're just going to get clipped leftwards, or you're just going to just die earlier. So yeah, it's not really possible to do the strat when you go that late, so take a left wall, and then you go in the goal like that. So there are a couple of strats you can do here for Eaton Floor. Really, I think all of the paths that you can take are like equally as difficult if you go through the middle. So I try and stick a little bit to the right there, because that's where the goal is. Additionally, you can take this right side where you're just kind of on this little like wire here, I guess you can call it. It might be a little hard for you at first to just sort of full send this like I am here, and additionally you can get clips. So I might, if I were to try and learn this in the beginning, I might like line this up at first so it could be a little easier. However, if you are a little bit too far to the left, you will get a clip the majority of the time, so be prepared for that. However, the safest strat here is just to kind of go through the middle. Once again, I would sort of try and stay to the right, and if you have pretty good movement, you can get pretty high 50s or mid 50s with that as well. Now for hoppers, there are sort of three main strats that you could do here. You could bounce twice and just enter the goal. It's a really large frame range here, so you can hold up just right before you bounce as well and get a little faster time. You can wait a little bit longer and get a little bit of a slower time. However, the comfiest thing to do, at least for this strat, is just bounce twice, and as soon as you land the second time you hold up, you're gonna have a decent amount of space in front of you and behind you from those hoppers. Additionally, what you can do is you could just kind of boost here. You don't even need a wall, and you can just go in the goal. You're gonna get a 55-4 every time, or maybe a 55-38 sometimes if it's a little bit slower. So this, honestly, I think is safer and faster than the other strat before. However, I'm not sure what you're personally comfortable with, so I decided to show that one off as well. And then finally, there's a strat where you can kind of boost off of the wall. It's about 0.1 faster than the strat before. It's really a trivial time save, so I wouldn't worry about that one too much, but decided to show it off anyway. Now for coaster. A lot of people are going to go faster than they want to in the beginning, and what you can do is you can just kind of hold down and down right in order to slow down. If you want to speed up, you can hold up left and a little bit of up as well. But the main part of the stage is really that transfer from coaster to the ground. And a lot of people, they have a little bit too much speed going from coaster to ground, so let me kind of show you what that looks like. Here, let's slow down just a little too fast here. So to kind of look like that, you can consistently get in the goal like that. However, the ending portion is significantly different and harder. And you can get better IGTs if you just have pretty good air control. So you can use the mini-map. I would highly recommend using the mini-map if you're going to use this falling strat. And you can kind of just bounce twice or 3 times there and just go in the goal. Obviously, you can take it a little bit slower. I might recommend even just kind of taking 3 bounces here. And just to clarify about the inputs, if you see my input display, you just kind of hold upright and then a little bit of left, and then you're going to adjust after that. And you can take as much time as you want bouncing here. It's going to be faster than going down the coaster casually, but obviously you do need a decent amount of air control there as well. So for bumpy check, there's a couple of strats that you can do here. This is just kind of the casual way to do it. This is usually how slow this stage goes with normal collision. You can try and speed it up a little bit if you want to by making the turns pretty good, doing something like this. It'll be a little bit varying. but you can optimize that a little bit if you want. Additionally, there is a different strat where you hold up and then you hold up left as soon as you hit the ground. And it can give you some weird collision here, but let me show you sort of what the main strat looks like here. So this is what it would look like. I got way too much speed there. So that could be an outcome. You have to react to collision here, and if you're not comfortable with reacting to multiple different collisions, then maybe this isn't the strat for you. But this is a pretty good time save if you're comfortable with reacting to different collisions. And that's sort of the main outcome there. You can get high 52s, you can even get really low 53s. But collision in this game is super wacky, and if you're not ready to add that into the run yet, that is totally okay. Now for Swell, this is a really interesting stage in that it looks pretty easy, and overall it's not too bad, but if you go too fast, there's sometimes collision that can just slam you upwards. So what I would really recommend is you can take this really slow. You can kind of just do like up left flicks at the beginning and then up right flicks at the beginning, and then you can kind of hold left and right afterwards. It's actually really comfy to get low 52s on the stage, so you can just hold up left and up. And you see I kind of just got sent upwards, but you have enough time to react in the beginning. So that's why I sort of go faster at the beginning and slower at the end, because there's often instances where you get that collision by going too fast at the end, and you go way too fast to be able to handle it, and you fall over the goal. So now we have Gravity Slider. You can just hold up on the stage and you'll get a 40-41, I believe it is. Once again, you can just hold up in the GameCube notch. If you're not playing with a GameCube controller, this is pretty lenient. Your times will probably vary ever so slightly, maybe a couple of frames. But once again, it's pretty lenient, so you don't have to worry about it too much. You can do a mini optimization here by going off of the first ramp and taking one wall. And once again, we're implementing sort of a boosting method in the air because it's faster to travel while holding up left and up right rather than just up. And as you see, that's saved about 2.5 seconds. Some people like taking two walls and then going for a first ramp. What I will tell you is that this is the most optimal strat. However, you have to react to different sort of wall hits, and you get multiple different scenarios each time. So if you do take the two wall strat, your outcomes will vary a lot. So what a lot of people often tend to do before they pick up the two wall strat, they go for the second kind of ramp there, and then they enter the goal like that. I did take it a little bit aggressive there, so let me show you sort of a less aggressive second ramp there. But as you see, you can get 46s with it. That's sort of the fastest you can go. So you can take it a little less aggressive there and maybe get a low 45 as well. So if you're looking to practice air control and that's something you want to implement, then I would more than recommend that strat as well. So now we're going to get into inchworms, and we have two main strats that we can go for here. So I'll show off the casual strat where you're just sort of chilling for a while. This is on double speed, by the way, so you can slow this down. I don't think it's necessary. And really the main thing that you want to do is just make sure you're over the goal tip. The only thing that I would really worry about with this strat is if you send it kind of too hard at the end. So let me sort of like show you what I mean by an example. So kind of like this, and then you just sort of like send it way too hard. I don't think that's like an intuitive way to go about it, but I thought I would just tell you that that's not a great thing to do. Then we have this strat where you're just kind of taking this first cycle and going to the goal. It saves about 8.5 seconds or so, so if you're really comfy with it, then go for it. But the main thing is this turn. So you have to get used to this turn. I know that that was a little bit too slow of a turn, so I had to throw some neutral in the air. If your turn is too slow, you want to throw neutral in the air, and if your turn is too fast, you want to neutral before you get air time. So this turn is pretty good. I might need a little bit of neutral here, but overall that's a really comfy goal entrance. And then let me show off what it looks like if your turn is too fast here. So I barely entered the goal there. I wanna show you an example that doesn't enter the goal. So this should be one. Yeah, there we go. So if your turn is too fast there, you will barely enter the goal. If you feel like your turn is too fast, you could throw some neutral in, like on the platform here, and then you should be fine. But overall, just wanted to show a couple of different scenarios there on inchworms. That strat is really nice to pick up and feels really good to get good at. And now for totalitarianism, here's a couple of strats. There's a play button and there's a double play button. You can take this play button as safe as you want. I would sort of take it safe at the beginning because the bananas are good cues to be at, but it is a little bit tighter than you think it would be. So if you're like a little bit too far to the left or a little bit too far to the right, you can get clipped by one. Additionally, you can sort of optimize this movement here. You can get a good button hit, and then you could go to this banana. You could actually get to the goal in second cycle and get like a high 47 or a low 48. I'll show you what double speed looks like casually. It certainly is harder, but it certainly is faster. However, it is sort of the same speed as if you would optimize the first play button, so whichever one you're more comfortable with, I would recommend. And then finally, the fastest strat that you can do here is you hit the play button and then you just kind of go through the stage. So you do an upright flick here, you go a little bit left of the banana there, and then you go in the goal. It's sort of a weird, like, you don't quite hit the banana, so you need to be a little bit like down left of it, if that makes sense. And then this upright flick is just sort of based on feel. It's not that large of a flick, but you could just kind of run through this stage there. And then finally, we have alternative. This button is notorious for not pressing when you want it to. So if you don't want to deal with bad button collision, you can just go with the slow button, and you can get second cycle. You can also get first cycle if you want. I'll show that off as well. And really, this is like the main gimmick of the stage is you need to travel with the little squares here. And let me show you what first cycle looks like. You really don't need excellent movement to make it. So as you see, I had a decent amount of time there. And once again, this is the same speed, and it saves 10 seconds. So last time I got a 33, and this time I'm going to go ahead and get a 43. However, if you do want to press the button and save a little bit of time, you can slow down there, run over the button, and then go for it. However, if you do run over the button, there is no single speed. So if you run over the button, it's double speed until you retry it. So just be a little bit aware of that. There is a way to sort of like optimize this button press here. It is a little bit difficult to do. I thought I would show it off just in case you want to play around with it. But I wouldn't worry about it too much because it doesn't really save any time. So that is World 2, and I will go ahead and see you in World 3. Okay, so we're going to start off World 3 with Organic Form. There is a double speed button and a regular speed button. I'm just going to show off the regular speed button here. And the main thing that you want to focus on this stage is just staying on the insides. You really don't want to get that many clips, you really don't want to get that much height, and you especially do not want to go on the outside. And I'll show you what it looks like to go on the outside just to show you what a failed attempt looked like. I'll also show you double speed here, where obviously it's a little bit harder to control yourself. If you're good at staying in the middle though, it's not too much more difficult. As you see, the organic form goes significantly faster there. And I saved about 3 seconds by going for double speed. Now let me show you what it looks like, what you shouldn't do. So I'm kind of on the outside here. You could literally just go through the organic form and die like I did there. But I sort of want to show you the different types of height that you can get. So here, there's just a lot of mistakes that you can make if you go on the outside. So I really would not recommend venturing out there. And then there is this strat where you can kind of get hit by the organic form and skip a couple of parts. You can sort of venture on the outside without being able to control it there. If you do go for this strat, I would sort of recommend learning how to full send it a little bit. You do need to hold up left a little bit early, and you might need a little bit of speed management there. I think this is a little bit easier than just kind of neutraling in the air after you get hit. However, if this is something that you're willing to learn and it saves time over just doing it casually for you, then that's something that I might pick up as well. Now for reversible gear. This is a stage where a lot of people really struggle because they have to play at the game speed first of all, and second of all, they have difficulty adjusting their camera. So if you have a lot of difficulty adjusting your camera, I would recommend doing very small flicks instead of doing sort of more aggressive holds. So I'll sort of show off what I mean by that. And I adjust the camera by doing sort of a down left flick, and then I do a right flick there just to make sure that I am facing the goal there, and then I leave sort of at about 47.7 or 47.5, and it sort of looks like I'm not going to be going into the goal, but just trust that timing. It works pretty much every time. If you're good with timer cues, this is definitely the strat for you. And now I'm just going to show off these sort of aggressive camera turns that a lot of people do. So they try and turn the camera here. They're like, oh, I want to face this way. And then sometimes they even go aggressive enough to go and get hit by the reversible gear here. So once again, if you're facing this direction, I would sort of just do taps in the direction that you wanna face the goal there. And just know that every 10 seconds the goal is going to show up here, and every 10 seconds the goal is going to show up in a different location, and I'll show that off here. So once again, I'll leave it about like 7.7 here and end up getting the same cycle. And I'll show off the other location here. It is a little bit faster. This is the first cycle instead of the other one. That was the second cycle that I showed off. And you leave it about 52.7 or 52.5. The frame range isn't too like precise, so you do have a little bit of room there to leave a little bit earlier or later. And additionally, even if you do bonk off the goalpost, you still are in the center, and you've pretty much got it, especially if the goal stops. And once again, I just want to reiterate this point on, you need to make miniature adjustments to change your camera angle instead of just these really aggressive holds, because you could even have drift after the hold and the camera changes after that as well. So just make sure you focus on just those light taps in order to manually adjust the camera. So now for stepping stones. This is a stage that overall is pretty easy, but it's very frustrating. So the first strat that I would recommend here, you just go on the left side. Just always go on the left side. You can take your time. I'll show you what it looks like if you go on the right side at the beginning. And then you can just kind of take your time there. Go on that square. You can make sure to just take your time and go on that square to just take that sort of diagonal transfer there. I'll show you what the right side looks like and why nobody goes for it and runs. The first platform here is not too bad, but as you see, you really didn't see anything like this before, and you're just sort of asking for a little bit of a death sentence if you do that. However, you can do a little bit of optimization on this left side here, so I'll show that off a little bit as well. You can bounce like sort of twice or 3 times on each platform. Just make sure you do end up bouncing on the platform and really try and avoid landing in the middle. So you'll see I'll land on the right side pretty much every time, and then I can sort of switch over there and then land here if you want as well. Just venturing over the center there, I really would not recommend, so I'll sort of purposely try and do that here. As you see there, like, I got pretty lucky until the end there. Actually, I expected the game to give me worse collision at the beginning. And now I'll show you sort of not the most optimized strat, but close enough to the most optimized strat where you're pretty much going to be taking 2 bounces and then sending it to the goal. So you take 2 bounces here, 2 bounces here, and then you just kind of send to the end. Something that I would recommend is just sort of staying a little bit more on the left side when you're just sending it to the goal. Once again, weird collision can happen when you go over those holes. So just sort of make sure you stay a little bit more on the left side, because once again, if you land in the middle, you can end up just landing on the edge of the square and getting sent backwards, and it's really just frustrating dying at the end there due to collision. So now I'm going to go ahead and show off dribbles. The main thing that I want you to focus on in this stage is just making sure you leave enough room between you and the dribble, and then just making sure that you can kind of wait for it to bounce in front of you. You can optimize this certainly a lot more, and you can optimize the single speed button even to get 34s. But what I would recommend just at the beginning, make sure that it bounces before you transfer to that next platform, and usually you get a low 27. I can show you what some optimized movement looks like on single speed here, and once again, you're going to need to wait for this button to, or for that dribble to go. And this is sort of what the optimized movement looks like here. Once again, you do have to give some space in between the dribble and yourself. And you can actually end up getting 34s. I got a 32 there. And I'll go ahead and show off double speed. I wouldn't really recommend double speed because you can optimize the single button movement and still get within like 1 or 2 seconds of double speed. Double speed just makes it a lot riskier here, and really for the reward that you get for the risk, I wouldn't personally recommend it. And finally, something that I will show off to you is there is this one specific dribble that I want you to look out for that is a little bit larger than its platform. So I'm gonna go ahead and show that to you here. Set a save state just in case I fall off. So it's this specific dribble here. So if you stand here, you should be fine. If you go kind of here though, you're gonna get hit though. You're not on the circle, so it doesn't look like you're gonna be hit by the dribble, but for some reason this specific dribble is just gonna hit you when you're not on the circle. So I think it's important to know that one, and just make sure that you're familiar with those dribble cycles. Alright, so now I'm gonna go ahead and show off URL here, and really the main thing about this stage is that you don't want to be hit by the URL. The URL is moving, and you kind of have a safe spot here if you're a little bit closer to the edge. If you are sort of here, you're gonna get hit and you're gonna fall off. And so I just wanted to show that off for you there. Really, this isn't too bad of a stage, especially if you're comfortable with sort of going towards the edge here. If you aren't, however, you do need a little bit of camera manipulation and momentum to get up here. And just know that these cycles, you have it just hit at about 42, and then it just hit at about 37.5, so it's about 5 or 4.5 seconds per time, so you do have a decent amount of time to move around there. Now I'm going to show you the backup strat here, where you get on top of the URL. This might not be the main strat that you use in runs. However, I think it's really important to know because I'm going to show you the main strat here and why you might need that backup. So here's the main strat. This is what I would recommend you do in runs. I actually got some pretty good walls there and ended up getting a 53. 53 is pretty rare. You can just do 3 walls and not go for that frame boost, but I just recommend doing that scoop at the end there just to make sure that you're kind of getting onto that platform. Now there is a way to mess this up, and I'll sort of show that off here. If you go a little bit too deep into this clip, you can end up dying like that. That is sort of a pretty common way to die on the stage when you're starting to learn the strat. So I'll show off just once again. Just kind of make sure you're sweeping into this a little bit, and you will be able to avoid that clip. But once again, if you are doing a frame boost and you're not able to get the second wall, getting on top of this URL is a really useful strat because you don't have to retry and you only lose about 2 or 2.5 seconds. So now we're going to get into mad rings. Really, the strat that I would recommend for everyone, just hold up, bounce once, and then hold neutral. You want to neutral before you bounce twice. So I'll show you what it looks like when you bounce twice and then neutral. So you're going to hit the party ball and you're going to die. This is probably your first experience with dying due to a party ball. It's very common when you try and optimize things and push it. However, you don't really need to push this, and just make sure that you're neutraling before that second bounce and you could get a low 55 every time. Additionally, there is a strat where you can kind of get this wall here and boost to the goal. The main part about this strat and why I might not recommend it is that, first of all, it only saves half a second, but second of all, it's sort of hard to tell whether or not you get a speed bump. So I got a speed bump both times there, and if you get a speed bump and you don't neutral flick, it looks a lot different. So I'll show you like that. Then you're just gonna end up hitting the backboard, and then you can end up getting a 51.5 or 51.6 when you really just could have gotten a 55.0 by holding up and then neutraling a little bit afterwards. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to know whether you got a speed bump or not. I keep getting a speed bump here, but those are a couple of strats that I would recommend on that stage. Now for curvy options, really there's only one strat that I would recommend here. You can do that boosting pattern. That's probably the boosting pattern that I would recommend the most. But really I would just take this leftmost path. If you optimize it a little bit and you don't get any clips, then you could get maybe even mid 49. But if you're not really comfortable with this turn, you want to take it a little bit slower, that's okay as well. And you want to throw some neutral into here, you don't want to go full speed, that's also okay. And obviously these paths are a little bit more narrow. I can show you this one as well. I can show you this one as well. And then obviously you might not want to look at this one here, but really there's only one strat that I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend any other boosting patterns either, although if you're more comfortable with it, you could do that as well. But optimizing this is a pretty good way at getting comfortable with a little bit more narrow platforms, so I thought that I would also point that out. But that's the strat that I would recommend in runs. Now, Twister is a stage that's really frustrating due to collision. I'll show you a strat where you can get semi-consistent collision here, and I'll set a save state just in case. I need to re-show this. I'd leave it about 51.5. I'd neutral until then and then just hold up. It just kind of does that, and you can hold up and then it'll send you upwards, and then you can just kind of go into the goal there. And I'll show that off again here. Really, it's just kind of up, neutral, and a little bit of down if you need it. So if you see my input display, there really wasn't that much other than up, neutral, and down. Additionally, there's this boosting strat that I can do here that's pretty similar. It is a little bit harder. If you go towards the left, you're not guaranteed, but it's more likely that you'll get a collision that's a little bit higher. If you stay more towards the right, it's a lot riskier, and you can end up getting some weird collision like that. You can end up not getting collision at all and just kind of dying. So if you're going to do this strat, I would recommend maybe going a little bit to the left here, just so that you can get collision and go into the goal. You can even get a 54.1 like I did there, so I would recommend both of those strats in order to start out. Now for downhill, there are a couple of ways that you could do this stage as well. I will show off the casual strat. You can go until the end of the staircase here. You could also fall off of the staircase a little bit early, and I'll showcase that later. I do sort of like the insides of this a little bit more than the outsides. If you feel like the inside platform is slower than the outside, or you just like the outside more, that's okay as well. Both of them are really the same, and it's just whatever your preference is. So really just the main part here is not going too fast and falling off. Additionally, I will show off another strat that I would recommend if you're trying to look at air control. Just some sort of simple air control here. You go down 3 steps and you sort of fall off here. You could do a little bit of a right adjustment. In fact, I think you need a little bit of a right adjustment. Just make sure that you're landing there, and you can use the map, the mini map, to your advantage. So once again, you go down 1, 2, 3, kind of line up here, make a little bit of a right adjustment, and then you're probably just naturally going to go a little bit forward when you fall down, and that saves a lot of time with the casual strat. Now, there is another falling strat that you could do. This is a little bit more complicated, and I'll tell you why. There are multiple different inputs, and you do need to take into account how fast you get on the wall. Sometimes you don't even get on the wall, and you have to do the backup there, which is a lot. It's just a lot narrower of a range there. So you need to take into account how fast you get onto the wall. Sometimes you need to boost a little bit. If you get onto the wall a little bit slow like this, then you need to leave a little bit later, and then you need to make some different adjustments. And it can be kind of tricky, but it is a good way to learn air control and sort of force yourself to go at a faster pace. So I might play around with this at first, but really I wouldn't worry about implementing this in strats for a while. Okay, so now we're going to get into Junction, the last stage in World 3. Really, there's only one strat that you could do here. You could take multiple paths if you want. But the main thing, just get to the goal. Just follow the path and get to the goal. You won't see people optimize this strat too much due to load manipulation, so if you go a little bit too fast on the stage, so you go for some clips and you get like a 51 or a high 50, the load into the next world, for whatever reason, is a little bit slower, so you're not going to see people go for a 51 or a high 50. You'll probably see a 50.6 or a 50.7 at most. So really, you can just kind of take your time here. Take it slow. Don't go for any clips, and really, all you need to do is just get to the goal. I know World 3 can be a little bit difficult in terms of camera manipulation, in terms of some moving cycles that you have to get used to, but I know you'll do it, and I know you will move on to World 4 pretty soon. Okay, so we're going to be starting off World 4 with pro skaters here, and pretty much the main part of this stage is that you want to press the button at the right time and the right amount of momentum. So you can just run over the button if you hit the edge of the button, so I would really recommend trying to hit the bottom there. And I'll show you sort of where I hit the button at the beginning. I hit it sort of at this edge instead of the bottom part. And I'll show you a strat where it's a little bit more optimal to try and hit the edge, but it's a lot riskier. So once again, I would recommend sort of trying to hit the bottom of the button instead. Another issue that people might have here is they might try and like line up the button like really early and then hit it like that. You can get into the goal like that, but it is a lot harder. And this, it's just really hard to hit the button with the correct amount of momentum. So even if you do have good timing, it's still going to be late because it's really slow getting up this button. Now finally, the fastest strat that you can do on this stage is if you just kind of boost there and you hold up left. This is a little bit more optimal if you do hit the corner of the button. However, there is a chance where you just run over the button and get no collision like I did earlier. So I do an up left, I try and hold up right sort of in the middle of that button there, and then get into the goal like that. Now Giant Comb is probably one of the most intimidating and frustrating stages that Monkey Ball has to offer, so let me show you just the easiest strat here where you go one line at a time. You want to avoid the pink as much as possible and only go over it immediately after the Giant Comb passes it. And this is just one line at a time here. This is pretty much the safest strat that you can do. It's not like too precise, so I really think that anybody can go ahead and do that, and I just wanted to show you what it looked like to get hit there, because it can be really intimidating for a lot of people to get hit, especially at the end. So this is 2 lines at a time here, and really it's not that bad. It can be sort of scary at the end, so some people might want to do 2 lines at the beginning and 1 line at the end because they can't see the giant comb. And then let me go ahead and show you the speed run strat here, where it's just this kind of weird upright flick here, and then you hold up left, and then you hold up right. For some reason, you just avoid the giant comb there. If you have a little bit too much upright here, so you're like here, you can die there. If you don't have enough upright, and if you just hold up, you just kind of get hit there. So make sure you do a little bit of an upright flick. Once again, it's not frame perfect. It is sort of lenient, so it's a little bit too much upright, so you can do a little bit more up left there in order to adjust and get in the goal. It really is a strat that you need to play around with and get a good feel for, but it really isn't that difficult once you pick it up. And now for Beehive, the main part of this stage is getting these transfers correct. Because the rest of the stage is a very big platform that is sort of hard to fall off, but these are really easy to fall off. So just make sure there that you're taking your sweet time. You can obviously optimize this a little bit more, but if you're gonna optimize Beehive, I'll show you a strat that I would recommend more over doing this. But I thought that maybe some people would want to see what it looks like to optimize that a little bit more. So this is the strat that I honestly would recommend to everyone that's watching this video. You would do an up left flick here, you would neutral, and then it's just a bit of right and up input. It's kind of weird timing at first, so this up left doesn't really seem intuitive, but you want to land here and then neutral, and then sort of right after you hit the second bounce, you want to make a right adjustment and then up. I think that once you do this a couple times, you'll get a pretty good feel of it, and hopefully the input display is helping here as well. But this is really the strat that I would recommend the most. Now there's a strat that you can go about 0.3 faster, and it looks like that. Pretty much what you're trying to do, I'll just show it off, like, you're trying to hit sort of the center portion of this thing here. If you go too far to the right, I'll show you what happens as well. You just won't get collision there. So, kind of like this. Oh, I still got collision. I was a little bit to the left of what I wanted to be to show off the death there. So here we go. That's where I'm gonna die. So yeah, it is pretty lenient there, but I would shoot for sort of the middle of that platform. It is a little bit harder to line it up, so that's why I would recommend the other strat. But if you are comfortable with a 0.3 time save and you like that strat a little bit more, I would go for it if you would like. Now for Dynamic Maze, there's really only one strat that I would recommend. Just the main thing, you have to make sure that you go over that one maze and then wait for that kind of guy on the left to go up. You leave it about 49.2 and you could get a 46.63. I think the main part about this is, once again, going over this and then just making sure that you look towards the goal. This is sort of like the thing that I told you on reversible gear, where you want to control the camera with those miniature flicks, because if you do venture off and go in a different path, let me show you what that looks like here. So we'll go like, say here or something. You might be stuck for a while. See, I already went into the goal, and then I'm waiting on here. See, and we're already losing upwards of 8 seconds, and it's really hard to control the camera here. So just make sure that you do know that that path is the most optimal, and that's really the only strat that I would recommend there. So triangle holds, hold up from the beginning. So make sure you're holding up in that up notch on the GameCube controller before you start. if you are using a different controller, you definitely will need to make an adjustment. Let me show you what holding up also looks like if you don't hold up from the beginning. So you wait a little bit, say maybe for a second. It'll look pretty similar at first, but then you're just going to get some weird collision, and it's just not going to work out for you. It actually ended up working out there, but it's just, you don't want to bet on it. You want to be as consistent as you possibly can, so just hold up from the beginning. Additionally, there is a strat where you can save a second by doing this sort of boost here. Pretty much the main thing that you want to focus on here is you'll sort of see this path of where the holes aren't, and it's just this kind of like path of light gray instead of the dark gray, and that's really sort of where you want to line up with. Hopefully that replay sort of helped you view that out there. And now for launchers, this is a stage where you want the minimap to be as zoomed in as possible. So right now it's really zoomed out, so I'm going to hit A and have it as zoomed in as I possibly can. And just make sure that if you're to the left of the launcher like I was there, you're going to be holding a lot of down right. And if you're to the right of the launcher, you're going to be holding a lot of down left. If you do use the second cycle like I am right now, you want to hit this launcher here, and you're probably going to end up going to the left, so you don't hit the goal. There is a way that you can possibly hit the goal, and let me show you sort of what that looks like. So there is a way where you can just hit the bottom of the goal like that. Obviously I was able to get the strat, but you can just bonk off of the goal and it can completely send you downwards and actually just kill you. So make sure that you're just using that specific platform there if you're going to do the second cycle. Here's the first cycle here. So pretty much what I'm shooting for is I hold up, and then right before I kind of like bounce that second time, I switch to up left, and then I just make sure that I hit that. If you're not fast enough, then that is what happens. So just try and make sure that you get it there. As you saw there, I almost hit the bottom of the goal. But really the main thing that I want to focus on here is that you use the minimap, and you use sort of that opposite diagonal. So once again, if you are sort of going up the launcher to the left of it, you want to be holding a lot of down right. If you're going up the launcher to the right of it, you want to be holding a lot of down left. Now for randomizer, there's really only one strat that I would recommend here as well. You hold up from the beginning, and once again, this is on a GameCube notch. This is also a stage where GameCube notches are really optimal, and then you hold upright right as you hit the backboard of the goal. You can hold upright a little bit before you hit the backboard of the goal. Let me show you what that looks like as well. So I held it a little bit before, and you get the same outcome. If you hold it too late, however, you will die, and then if you hold it way too early, then you'll lose a few seconds, but you should be okay. But let me just show you what too late looks like. So yeah, that's what too late looks like, kind of going up right on that bounce. So just make sure you're holding up right on the hit of the goal backboard or a little bit before it. Alright, so now we're going to be getting into coin slots here. There are a lot of different goals you can go for, and let me show off those speeds here. So this green goal is really fast. I'll show off a setup for that a little bit later, which isn't too difficult. And just the goals get a little bit slower as you go on. This is the third goal. Honestly, I would recommend the fifth goal at first. So I would wait until the middle of the platform, and then, or I'd wait at the middle of the platform, wait until that bottom right of the corner enters that slot, like right now, and then I would hold up. I am a little bit further back than I would like here, so you can be a little bit more forward and get slightly faster time, but just make sure that you are in between the party ball and the goal, or you hit the goal tape. And now I'll show you a little bit of a setup for the third goal here on coin slots. So once again, I passed 2 of these slots, so I'm waiting for the third one as well. Camera management is also super important on the stage, so something that you probably have practiced in reversible gear already. You want to wait until the back of the platform, and then wait until the bottom left of the goal this time enters that kind of slot here, and then you just hold up. So remember, the 5th goal, you want to wait in the middle and then the bottom right of the platform. For the 3rd goal, you want to wait at the back of the platform and then wait until that bottom left of the goal enters that little slot there. And now I'm going to show off a strat that is much faster than both. So you neutral for a little bit less than 3 seconds and then you hold up. As you saw, I got a speed bump there, so I had to neutral flick and then I entered the goal. Really, there is a frame range here that is sort of precise, but the main part of this strat is whether you get a speed bump or not. Really, you can just hold up right before you hear the beep of that third second there, and you see the speed bump that I get, so just make sure that you're throwing a decent amount of neutral in there if you get that speed bump as well. I can't tell you how often you are or aren't going to get it because it's just depending on a little bit of randomness here. So I didn't get the speed bump there through a little bit of upright. You might need a little bit of upright to get into the goal. I like doing it because the goal is just a little bit out of your way there, but I thought I would throw off that strat as well. Alright, so now we are getting into seesaw bridges, and this is a really frustrating stage because a lot of people die at the end instead of the beginning. So really the main part of this stage is you want to stay in the middle as much as you possibly can to limit the seesaw from kind of going up and down here. The second platform is a little bit difficult at first, just make sure you're staying in the middle here, but this is really the platform that I would be concerned about. So you wanna have enough speed to be able to sort of swing on the outside and then swing back in. Really, you don't want to wait that much, and even if you wait in the middle, you're just limiting your speed and you're gonna be on the outside more. So try and take this a little bit faster if you possibly can, and I'll sort of show you what that means. So if you wait on the inside here, and this is sort of like a neutral like seesaw, so even if you go on the outside and try and swing back in, you just don't have enough speed. And you really want to make the seesaw tilt one way and then go on the opposite end of the other that is tilting up at the moment, so you can sort of just neutralize that tilt a little bit if you possibly can. So you could do a little bit of an optimization there. The clips are a lot different per time that you go about it, so just know that if you're gonna take it a little bit riskier. And once again, I'm just going to show off this part. This is really the main thing that I want you to focus on, is just sort of getting this timing down. And even if you are available to get save states, I would highly recommend placing one. And really just kind of like stay in the middle here, but make sure that you have a good amount of speed. And I'll show it off one more time. What you don't want to do, you don't want to stay in here and then like slowly go around here. You can barely make it work sometimes, but then if you try and do it again, you're probably gonna end up dying. So just make sure that you take that a little bit faster than you might on some other stages. So now for arthropod, this is a really frustrating stage as well because sometimes you just don't even know why you die. Sometimes you get stomped on by the arthropod, sometimes you just aren't able to get into the goal, the collision isn't nice to you. I would leave at about 43.2 and I would hold up and then I will neutral sort of at the end of the platform here and just be ready to make an adjustment, and as you avoid kind of those arthropod feet, if you will. Really, this is another strat that you just need to be ready to get collision and you need to be ready to hold down. Like that, sometimes you could just get really bad collision, and the reaction time is the deciding factor on whether you will live or not. And once again, I neutral at the end of the platform, and I'm just kind of getting ready to hold down here. And I would leave it about 43.2. So I'll show this off one more time. Additionally, there is a falling strat that you could do. This is a lot harder and it's a lot more precise of a goal landing here. So I would sort of line up with that like larger wire, if you will, on the ground, and then I would neutral once again at the end of the platform, and then make the adjustment as necessary. This is a really difficult stage, so it's okay if you struggle with it a little bit, as both of those strats have its ups and downs. This, obviously, you can have a lot more attempts at it, since it's just so much faster of a strat. But really, I know World 4 is a toughie. You can get through it. There are just so many different ways that you can complete each of these stages, and I will go ahead and see you in World 5. Alright, so now we are on to World 5 here, and I'm going to go ahead and start with Wormhole. Now, really, there's 2 ways to complete this stage, and I'd only recommend one of them, really. So, this is the first way to complete the stage, and you go through the wormhole here, and as you saw, you were just kind of on that bottom platform before you went through the wormhole. You came out of this wormhole. There's not really too much behind it. I wouldn't go behind this wormhole in runs for any reason, really. And just the main part of completing the stage is making sure you don't fall off this platform and making sure you don't fall off of this platform. Now, once again, if you're not really comfortable with getting on these smaller platforms quickly, you can do sort of a camera manipulation where you do those miniature flicks just to get the monkey to look in the direction that you want it to. And you might need to hold a little bit out of that up notch a couple of times. So I just wanted to show that off as well. And I'll show sort of a miniature optimized version of Wormhole. As you saw, I got a speed bump there, which the majority of the time you can't really control, but I can just show you sort of how you can take these turns a little bit where you just kind of sweep that right down and then get on here. This is sort of an ideal pauseless Wormhole without the skip. And now I'll show you what the skip looks like. I really would not recommend this at all. This is such an inconsistent skip, and you can maybe try and go for it, but if you want to slow down what just happened there, I completely just ran over the clip there. I really wouldn't recommend this for a while. As you saw, I just got it there for whatever reason, and really there's just so many different outcomes that you can get. You're really throwing a lot of randomness by picking up that strat, so I wouldn't recommend it. Now for free fall, you kind of hop on this wire here, and I would really use the mini-map to your advantage. You're sort of on the edge here, so you can make a little bit of adjustment to get on the wire, but you just fall off here, make sure you land on this platform, and then you do some camera manipulation until you see the wire in front of you and that circle. Now, I will set a save state here just to show you a couple of different ways that you can get into the goal. You can wrap around and you can get into the goal, or you can hold up and then you could just sort of neutral and then do that. This is significantly faster than the way before. I think it saves about 2.5 or 3 seconds depending on how fast you take it. So I got a 31.9 here, and then I took that a little bit fast and I got a 29.9. And just the way that you fail this mini optimization here is if you hold up for too long. And I'll show up holding up for too long, but not as much. If you hold up until like the end of that circle, that's still too long. So just make sure you neutral kind of before the end of that circle if you want to take that mini optimization too. I would also recommend that if you're going to do this, you are lined up correctly and you are pretty comfortable with going fast on this wire. So if you're not comfortable with going fast on that wire, don't really worry about it. It's 2 seconds. So I thought I would show it off anyway though. But this is a strat that I would also highly recommend, is you just hold up and do a little bit of a drift, a little bit of an up left or up right drift at the beginning, and then you just hold up and then hold neutral at the end of that platform, and really you're pretty lined up with the goal. It's a really good visual cue, which is why I would highly recommend it too. If it was a very poor visual cue, then maybe I wouldn't. But this is a good way to pick up a nice falling strat and to pick up a nice visual cue. This saves a lot of time. As you see, I'm getting 54s. You might need a miniature adjustment based off of when you hold neutral though, so I just thought I would bring that up as well. Now this stage is really weird because if you're not able to get in the goal at the beginning, it's really hard to sort of get into the goal. So really what I would do is I would go as right as I possibly can, and then as soon as that sort of kind of ball there passes you, then you go left, I might even do it a little bit before just so that you have some momentum to swing out like this. But it can hit you like that, and then you can be at a weird position. The camera angle in this stage is also not great, so I would sort of swing out here as much as you can and hold left earlier. As you saw the mistake I was making earlier, as I was going a little bit not as right as I could be, and then I was holding left later, which kind of makes it a lot harder. So once again, I would recommend swinging out really far to the right and then holding left pretty early, and then just being able to have a good shot at the goal there. Additionally, there's one more strat that I do that I would recommend. You hold up until 27.0, and then you hold up right until 27 or 26.3, excuse me, and then you can make a little bit of an adjustment there. It saves a little bit of time, and I really like timer cues. If you really like timer cues as well, that could be the strat for you, so I thought I would just show that off. Now from Mad Shuffle, there is a play button behind here. You land on the double speed button, and I'll sort of show you how the cycles work. Each side is up like 4 cycles per time, so I'll show you what I mean here. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, and there's kind of that quick transfer, so that's number 2, 3, 4, and then if you go right to left, it's a slower transfer. So I thought I would show off sort of how that works. So that's the faster transfer from left to right. And then there's that kind of weird transfer there. And I know that this is the 3rd, I know that this is the 4th, and I should be safe to get into the goal. Now just note that if you are going to hit that button relatively fast and you're here before like 52 seconds, or if you're here at like 53 seconds or so, you can just go on the left side and complete it entirely. So I'll sort of show you what that looks like. And you just wait for that switch, but you have to make sure that you get onto the platform sort of before the end of the switch. And what I mean by that is, I'll sort of show you what it looks like when you're too late. So when it switches over and then you hold up, you can still get on the second part or the second cycle of the thing, but you have to switch over then if you are doing that single button. So just know that the timing is a little bit earlier than you're probably thinking in the beginning. Additionally, there is the speedrun strat that isn't that difficult. You do a frame boost here, you just wait 3 cycles and then you switch over. It looks kind of intimidating, but it really isn't that bad. You don't need a super frame perfect frame boost or anything like that. It is very lenient, and I would throw a little bit of neutral in there at the end as well. Okay, so now we are going to be doing bead screen here. There's 5 buttons that you could press. There is the pause button, there's the play button, there's the double speed button, there's the backwards button and the double backwards speed button. As you see, the bead screen sort of flattens out on the right side there, and then it'll go ahead and flatten out on the left side next. You want to make sure that when you're going to hit the play button, you have a decent amount of space in between it, and then you just sort of leave right now, when just right before it's about to flatten out there. You can follow this banana path in order to get to the goal, because that's where the center is. I'll sort of show off a first cycle without pressing any other buttons. So once again, you leave a couple of inches there at least, and then leave right about there, and then you just follow the banana path. Once again, you can go a little bit faster down those stairs if you want to. However, that is a way that people die. If they go down a little bit too fast, they get some weird collision, or they just hit the goalpost there. There's another way that you can sort of optimize this, is if you hit the double backwards speed button and then you hit the pause button afterwards, you can go ahead and reach the goal. You can wait a little bit, like you could throw in some neutral and then wait, so you can have a little bit more time to press the button. I think it's more intuitive to just press the button as fast as possible, because you just sort of hit the button and then press the pause button as fast as possible, whereas opposed to if you wait a little bit, you have to also wait a little bit to hit the pause button, if you see what I'm trying to say there. But it's really whatever you're comfortable with. I thought I would show that off, because you can optimize it, but you don't need to fully optimize it there. So there are just multiple different ways that you can complete that strat. And now for jump machines, sort of the main gimmick of the stage is that there are these platforms that, as you see, they rise up and rise down. There's 4 platforms that you could land on, so the one closest to the starting platform is where the goals will be. And then there's stuff to the left, to the right, and behind it where you could get a banana bunch. Additionally, there's a green goal and there's a red goal as well. You don't have to worry about those at all, and in fact, they're a lot slower. So the thing that you really want to worry about here is just camera, and you want to make sure you're sort of facing this platform here, and then you sort of just land on the outskirts of the circle. If you land on the inner side of the circle here, you might get sent upwards. You really don't want to get sent upwards. You just want to be able to wait for that cycle. So once again, I'll show that cycle go, and then you can just kind of go into the goal there. And that's really the biggest part of this strat, is just making sure that, one, you don't get hit by those wires, which is pretty rare, but if you set it up incorrectly, you can. And 2, just landing on the outskirts and waiting for that cycle to go. Now finally, I'll show off the fastest way to complete this strat. It really isn't too difficult, but you do need some decent air control here. You do need a good timing. You will probably get some lag there when you enter the goal, so just beware. I know I am kind of on an emulator just to be able to show off my inputs here, but just know that you'll receive a little bit of lag there when you enter the goal, and it really is mainly about air control, and if you set it up the same way, you can hold up in the air at the same time and end up getting that good outcome. Alright, so now we are going into zigzag slope here, and there's really only one path that I would recommend. There are multiple that you could take. This one is by far the easiest, and it is also the fastest. So I wouldn't take any other path here. If you don't do any walls and you just kind of hold up and up left and up right, then you're going to get a 43.7 or 43.8. It's pretty easy, and you can space yourself from the holes in the zigzag. I'll show you what some other paths look like here. So if you kind of swing out and set up this right side, you're really just going out of your way to make it slower and more dangerous. So as you can see here, I was strictly holding up left and I still almost died. I might be going faster on this part, but as you see, I went about a second slower. I'll show you what left and left looks like as well. So left side is more optimal at the beginning, but if you go left again, it's once again just really a steep path there, and you're gonna get once again a little bit of a slower time here. So I just recommend going left, right, left, right. You can go for some clips here. I really wouldn't recommend them because it just throws some randomness into your run there, and it really doesn't save that much time, so I wouldn't start with those. So now we're gonna get into tower here, and you go through a wormhole. I'll show you what it looks like if you just sort of fall off here. You're falling off in the right direction, but you're not making the correct adjustment. As you see, you get sent to the left completely there, and that kind of platform is tilted to the right, like the right side is upwards, so you want to make sure to hold right so that you fall off a little bit slower. You can also hold a little bit of right down, and then in order to safely get onto this platform, you can hold up and up left a little bit. I like to align with this banana here so that you're perfectly aligned with the goal. As you saw in the mini map as well, I was aligned with the goal a little bit earlier than when I saw it, so I'll show you once again. If you just sort of align the banana here, you can see that right now the goal shows in the mini map, and then you could just sort of throw some neutral in there to go a little bit faster. Now additionally, there's a little bit of an optimization that you could do here where you could just kind of fall off. I like to fall off on the right side and then swing kind of down left and then fall on this platform again. There's no banana queue here, so that's sort of bad, but you can use the minimap once again to see where the goal is. Once again, I would hold a lot of down left and then up left once you bounce, and then you can just sort of take your time there, so I'll show this off one more time. And additionally, you can just fall straight into the goal. I wouldn't recommend that for a while. I really wouldn't recommend that for a while. It doesn't save too much time here, and really you could just take your time and play it safe by doing this strat as well. So now for toggle, I think a lot of people originally struggle with this stage because they want to take it slow. They want to take it sort of one platform at a time here, and it's very hard to set up, and you're kind of having a blind transfer. I would not take it slow at all. So really what I would do is I would sort of full send it right when the toggle sort of looks like that. So I'd go like right now, and I'll sort of show you what it looks like here in action. So I would take a wall as well, and then I'd sort of go on that right side, I'd align here, and then right when it flattens out, I would switch over to the left side. And the reason why is if you just sort of stay on the right side here, I'll show you what that looks like. You're just going to get set in a weird direction. You're going to get some worse collision here. And really, you can just wait half a second, take this right wall, and then align on the right side. And then once again, right as it flattens out, I would go to the left side there. And just be prepared for some funky collision. You could slow down a little bit at the end if you want to. But once again, I wouldn't really recommend slowing down. You just want to do that stage as fast as you possibly can. So now we have fluctuation here. And really, this is sort of similar to floaters, except there's a lot more going on here. The squares are a lot smaller, but they're a lot more frequent, so you just sort of need to maneuver past a lot of things. As you see here, if you make it here before 40, you'll see the right square go down first, and then you'll see the left square go down. They'll even go up there for you to just sort of be able to get into the goal there. So once again, I'll sort of show that off. You really just want to avoid the holes. Like, that's just the main part of the stage. You really just want to avoid the holes. You don't need to go that fast. As you can see, I'm really taking my time here. And you just have so much time. You could even just kind of like wait here and hold up and then just sort of like wrap around. Additionally, there is a way where you can get a first cycle if you are interested. It does save about 10 seconds here. You are throwing collision into your runs here, so I would sort of go like that. You're going over, I think, 4 holes it is, so let's count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can kind of slow down and take this path here. If you want to take it a little bit slower, you might want to go for the left side of the goal, so let me show you why here. So if you take it a little bit too slow, that part is going to go up, and then you might want to wrap around. And if the right square goes up before you're able to go into the goal, and the left square does as well, you're going to go back to that 40 strat, which once again isn't too bad. But if you're looking to get a low 50 or even a high 40, you could just kind of wrap around here and still get that first cycle. So once again, there's a lot of difficult strats in World 5. There are a lot of moving parts. But I know you'll be able to get through it. There are a lot of different ways that you can complete each stage, and I will go ahead and see you in World 6. Alright, so moving on to World 6, we are going to start with combination, and this is a strat that really you have to deal with a lot of moving platforms as well, and you can go ahead and slow them down by hitting this play button here. It is sort of hard to see at first, and you can't really notice it from the beginning platform, so you have to go behind that wormhole and then press the button there, and then go through this wormhole. Now know that the platforms kind of switch, so you see this top platform is kind of switching with the bottom platform at the moment. I have a save state, and here the goal is on the top platform. It's going to go ahead and switch to the bottom. It's the same platform, they just kind of switch sides there. I'll go ahead and load this again. If you go on this square here, you're going to be going to the top, which is not what you want to be going to because the goal is going to the bottom. So just make sure that if you're aligned with the goal, you go 1 square forward. And I would highly recommend aligning yourself with the goal just to know where it is. Now, also something that you need to know is something that's easy to mess up is the transfer. So I would really make sure that you have the camera pointed in the direction that you want it to. I wouldn't recommend doing any transfers when the platform is spinning, because then you can really mess up your angle, you can really mess up just where your camera is headed, and really I would just take it 1 transfer at a time. Also know that you'll need to do kind of 4 up left transfers, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it starts spinning, so you could just kind of wait here, and then turn around, 1, 2, 3, and then this last one is 4. Something that's also really important to know is that you need to know where the goal is, because oftentimes the combination will just sort of turn you around. So I'll go 4 here again, and then it's just going to turn me around. Just know that it's going to turn you around in a pretty similar way every time, and if you turn around to the goal, you should be able to have enough time to get it within sort of 2 cycles here. You can also take a 3rd cycle, so I'll go ahead and show that off. It'll take a little bit of time here. I'll just show you how long. So it'll go ahead and spin this 2nd time, and then I'll make a few transfers here, and it'll go ahead and spin a 3rd time as well, and you will have more than enough time to be able to reach the goal here. Now note that the goal is down left of me, so I need to turn around and go ahead and get it. So you have more than enough time to do that. And finally, I'll show off a strat that's significantly faster, but the inputs are a little bit weird. So I do a down left into a down when you see the goal, and kind of do that sweep around here. I like doing a neutral flick before the wormhole, so I down left right here, and then kind of right when you're aligned with the goal, I hold down a little bit. This is a significantly faster strat, although the inputs are pretty fast, and you're just holding a bunch of different directions here. So I might not pick this up for a little bit, but it is a very fast strat. It's a lot faster than the one I showed off previously. Now for punch seesaws, this is pretty much seesaw bridges, but easier. Really, you just want to stay on the insides as much as you possibly can. If you're comfortable doing this stage a little bit faster, I would definitely recommend it. So I'll show you what it looks like if you go a little bit slower. So here, if you go a little bit slower, it's just going to be tilting a lot more, and there's just more opportunity for death there. So once again, I would recommend doing this a little bit faster. Now you can optimize this a little bit, although that is how people die a lot more on the stage, just if they optimize it a little bit more than they're comfortable with. But just know that if you're able to do whatever strat you want to pick up fast, then you're going to have a lot of time to do it. So even if you stay on the same side the entire time, as long as you're not on the edge there, you can kind of get this inside clip and get into the goal, and you can do all the other strats that I showed off earlier. I might actually recommend this one, where you kind of make that one transfer right before the largest circle, and then you go in the middle there. But once again, it's really what you're most comfortable with. Just make sure you stay away from the outside. Now for opera, this strat is, or this stage in particular, is really frustrating because you want to go fast, but the further you go, the slower you have to go. So it's a little bit steeper here. It's especially steeper on this last platform. As you see, you kind of have to hold down here. And I'm going to set a save state here for a little bit later. And then this one platform, or this one staircase, you really need to do miniature adjustments here. I would do a bunch of down flicks, maybe even after each stair, and then an occasional flick right if you're taking the left staircase, and an occasional flick left if you're going to be taking the right staircase. Really, you have to take this slow. If you're gonna be doing this last staircase, you have to be taking this slow. Now, there is a miniature skip here. If you align with this last row of squares here on the tile, you can just hold up. And you get into the goal there. However, note that, see, I'm not on the last set of squares here. I'm on the third to last set of squares here. If I hold up here, I'm not going to make it. Even if I'm on the second to last set of squares here, let me try and align that real quick, and I hold up. You still don't make it. You could try and line up with the second line of squares and then boost in the air, and then you could be able to make it. However, for some people, it's a little bit easier to just line up with this last set here and then hold up. Just know that the more diagonals you hold in the air, the further you're going to go, and that's pretty much how you can do that skip. Additionally, if you're not comfortable with lining up with that last set of squares here, you could sort of line up with the fourth kind of row here, hold a diagonal, and then hold up after the platform here. Now, you really do want to hold up after the platform and make as little adjustments as possible, because if you hold up right a little bit too much and you hold diagonals a little bit too much in the air, you can overshoot it. Like there, I barely snuck under the party ball. So once again, if you line up with this fourth row, you can do this on the other side here. Let me show you that as well. I hold up left and then kind of hold up there, make a miniature adjustment, and then get in the goal. Now for brandished, there's really only one strat that I would recommend here. You hold up, and then as soon as you get off the platform, you hold upright. There is a frame for this. You don't really need it. So just right after you get off of the platform, I would hold upright. I'll show you what too early looks like. So if you hold upright too early, you just kind of miss it there. And then if you hold upright too late, you're just going to get whacked there. So just make sure that you hold upright just after you get off. If you feel like you hold it too early there, which I thought I held it too early there, you can make a miniature adjustment. Like you can purposely go a little bit early and then throw like some up in there. You can, I wouldn't go purposely too late. I was just going to say that, but I really wouldn't go purposely too late. The adjustment's going to be a lot weirder there. So that's really the only strat that I would recommend for brandished. Now for tiers, there are 5 wires here. There's this top wire, which I wouldn't even think about. There's this wire, which really I wouldn't think about either. This wire you could eventually get to, but I wouldn't really recommend it. I would recommend either this second to last wire or the last wire. So I'm going to go ahead and show off this last wire here. And really it's just a combination of up and upright, and you have a decent amount of room on the left and the right side there in order to comfortably get the goal. And just to kind of clarify how you would set this up here, you would go down 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's no more platforms here, so just know that you would go down 4 times to get to this last wire. Additionally, you could sort of like optimize the setup here, so you can skip one here, you can kind of get on the wire a little bit faster if you want as well. That's what some people want to do. They want to optimize the stage without taking a faster wire because they're not really comfortable with it. And finally, I'll just show off the wire that's right before it, so you can kind of optimize that once again. And this wire is a little bit more narrow, but it's still more than comfortable. However, you do have to drop off in order to get to the goal. You can drop off a little bit earlier, or you could drop off a little bit later. As long as you hit the platform, I would just take that a little bit safe though if I were you. Now for cliffs, there are a couple of strats that you could do here as well. So first of all is the casual strat, and this really teaches you speed management. So you kind of have to go fast down the hill, but I would hold down kind of after you get off of the ramp. And then also the ramps get a little bit more narrow each time. And this last ramp here is pretty narrow, so just make sure you align in the center. You can obviously optimize this a little bit more, so I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. Now here's a strat that I find really interesting, in that if you bounce here and then you sort of bounce on that flat platform and then you go here, you could just sort of skip to the last ramp here. A way to mess up this stage, or to mess up that strat in particular, is if you go a little bit too far and you land on that part. So really what you want to make sure that you do is sort of notice the flat versus the tilted portion of that, and then you'd hit this and you can hit that. That's actually a different strat there. But just make sure that you notice the difference between the tilted and the flat portion, so you can just kind of skip over here. And make sure you align that last ramp. And finally, I'll show off a strat here. You can bounce on here and then just kind of go to the goal here. You can do a miniature optimization as well by not bouncing on here and just sort of swing into the goal here. I wouldn't really recommend either of these to start out with, but they're definitely something where you can learn air control, and I would mess around with them in the beginning at least a little bit. So now I'm going to show you narrow peaks, and I'll show off a couple of strats here. I would only recommend 2 of them. So I would go on the left side here. I'd sort of swing out and then swing back in to manipulate the camera to see where you want to go. Really, camera manipulation is important here, just to see where you want to go and to make sure that you're holding up over those hills so that you don't need to adjust it any differently. Additionally, I'll show you the right side and why you don't want to go in this direction. So as you see, this wire here is pretty thin, and then let's show you the last wire here. If you even want to consider thinking about going up this thing here, I really wouldn't recommend doing that in a real-time run, but I would recommend doing this strat where you just kind of do a neutral flick here and then get over and you skip the entire stage. There are a decent amount of ways to fail this stage, so here's too quick of a neutral flick. So as you saw, I really neutral flicked quickly and I wasn't able to bounce the second time. Additionally, if you neutral flick for too long, then you're not going to be able to get over. And finally, if you neutral flick in a different area, so if you neutral flick at the top of the ramp instead of the bottom, then it's not really going to work out either. So I just recommend kind of learning the timing of that neutral flick in order to get over and skip that stage. So now for Detour, there are a couple of strats that you could do here as well. There's a blue goal and there's a green goal strat. I'm going to show you sort of the casual way in order to get the blue goal here. And really holding down sort of prevents you from being able to see where you want to go. However, if you do go in the middle of the wormhole here and you're not towards the edge, you're pretty well lined up for the goal as long as you hold down or neutral for the rest of the time. So I'll sort of show you what I mean here once again. And I'm going sort of in the middle here, like I'm not towards the edge at all, and I can just sort of hold neutral and I'm going to get in a goal there. You can optimize that a little bit, but if you're even thinking about optimizing that, I might just go for the green goal strat, where you go off of this corner here and then you just line yourself up with this green goal. You do need a little bit of neutral, however, if you are going to do a frame boost, and if you are just going to full send it. You do need a decent amount of speed though, so don't neutral for too long. I would really try and aim for the corner, so additionally I'll show you. You can aim for a little bit before the corner, and you're going to need some more up. I wouldn't recommend going before or after the corner though. I'm just trying to show you what it would look like, and here would be a little bit too late on purpose, where you need to hold upright a little bit longer. As you see, your height is just not as much and you don't have as much wiggle room, and really I would just recommend going over the corner, so I'll show it off one last time here. And it's really just up into upright, into up, and then a little bit of neutral here. Now for Switch Inferno. This is a stage that a lot of people really don't like because they don't know what button to hit. And there's not much of an instruction on what button to hit here. So if you are aligned with the goal here, so make sure you're aligned with the goal so you know where you are. Go one column to the left here, and then go up until you see the 4th button from the top. So you see this is the 4th column, there's the 3rd column, 2nd and 1st. I would hit the button on the left, and then that's when the goal pops up. The other buttons just sort of hit you off of the stage, so I'll show you. This button is going to hit me off the stage from the left. No, from the right. The one next to me is going to hit me off of the stage from the left. But yeah, these are what the majority of buttons do. As you see, there's a lot of other buttons that are clicked there, and really it's super frustrating trying to figure out what button to hit because you almost need to like write it down, each one that doesn't work. Just make sure to go to the left for one row here, and then make sure to get the 4th button from the top. I would set yourself up so you have a little bit of momentum, so you hit the button and then you could sort of go to the goal, because the goal eventually goes down. And let me show you that too. If you go a little bit too slow, you're not able to get the goal there. So let me show you what too slow is. And you can't really sneak your way into that side either. So just make sure you're going fast enough to get into the goal there. Now for folders, there's two strats maybe that I would recommend here. You could sort of line up yourself with this wire. You can be kind of right next to the right wall and line yourself up with the wire. And really, I would wait at kind of the middle of the platform, and then right as the folder comes up, I would go into the goal. This is another stage where you really need to play at the game speed. And I just recommend sort of practicing that timing a little bit. Once again, you can line yourself up with this wire here, sort of by being right by the right wall. And as you see the input display, I'm literally just holding up. So once again, I would sort of practice this transfer. Make sure right as it comes up, you sort of just sneak into that goal there. Now finally, there is a strat where you can actually get hit by the folder and then land. Well, I got a speed bump there, so sometimes that doesn't happen. Note that if you do go for this strat, there are speed bumps that can happen and sort of just screw up your plan here. But the normal outcome is you get two pretty decent walls, and then you get hit by the folder, and then you sort of line up with that wire there. I keep getting a speed bump here, but there is a little bit of variance in this, so I wouldn't recommend starting with this, but if you are pretty comfortable with it, then you can get hit by the wire there, and then you could sort of just go according to your plan. So there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of wires, there's a lot of kind of crazy stuff going around in World 6, but I know you can do it, I know you can make it past, and I will go ahead and see you in World 7. Okay, so now we are getting on to World 7 here, and we're going to start off with Spiral Bridge. I think the biggest issue that people have with this stage is they hold neutral for too long. So I'll sort of show you what happens here if you hold neutral for too long. The Spiral Bridge is really good at turning you around, and it's kind of difficult to turn back around. I'll sort of show you, like, I like doing it down left if I get turned around there, but the Spiral Bridge does a really good job at just turning you around if you hold neutral for too long. So in order to prevent that, you want to be constantly moving at least a little bit. So you don't need to be strictly holding up or upright. You can sort of do flicks as well. I'd make sure to have a little bit of speed to get over that hump there. And a lot of people have issues with this transfer. So I'd sort of go to the edge here, and I was a little bit too far to the left there. So what I would do is I'd sort of get to this edge, and then I'd hold down right. Down right is a really good input here because not only are you holding a little bit of down, but you're sort of holding in the direction of the goal as well. I'll sort of show off what happens if you just hold down. It could work, but you could hold down at too wrong of a time, and you know, the timing is really a lot more lenient if you're going to hold down right. I'll show you also what happens if you hold right here, so you're just going to kind of fall off there. I'll show you what happens. A lot of people like sort of like holding up or upright because they want to like get to the goal platform faster. Really just take this sort of transfer slow. I'd really recommend holding down right, and if you're more comfortable with down for whatever reason, you could do that a little bit as well, but I'll go ahead and show off a full attempt here of Spiral Bridge second cycle, and just know that each cycle is about 10 seconds, so there is a way to get first cycle. Don't think about it for a long time because really everything, every part of your movement needs to be sort of perfect in order for that to happen. And third cycle you would get like a 37 or a 27 or a 26, and as you see second cycle there is a 37 or a 36. Now for wavy option, this is really, there are 4 paths here. You can just take this path. One isn't shorter than another here, so I'll show you this path as well. And then obviously you kind of get to this really narrow path here. I wouldn't recommend taking this thing there. So what you can kind of do is just, if you want to, you could sort of align yourself with this a little bit. I think it's a large enough platform to where you don't have to. And really you just want to take your time over this hump. So I'll sort of show you what it looks like if you don't. Obviously, I can't get back on the starting platform here, but really if you go a little bit too fast, your inputs might be sort of a little bit weird, and that's not a barrier by any means. So you could just kind of roll off like I did there. So I'll show off a full attempt of what this easiest wire sort of looks like here. So I'd hold down sort of right as you get over that hump, and then you could sort of get in the goal there. Now you could do a miniature optimization that saves about a second or a second and a half if you do it well. You kind of go on the second wire here, and because you're a little bit closer to the goal, you could just sort of sweep in there. It's sort of like a combination of down, down left, and up left. So I'll sort of show off what that looks like one more time. I would recommend a wall for a little bit more speed, but once again, you don't have to. And you could sort of do that sweep and go into the goal there. Now for obstacle, I'll sort of show you what the gimmick of the stage is. As you see here, the left platform goes up all the way and the right platform doesn't. Now you're gonna need to go up all the way, and I'll show you why. So we're gonna go ahead and look at the goal here and see why you can't get it without going up. So as you see here, this is a little bit of a struggle bus to get up on there, but so I'll show you sort of, you want to get on this platform here, and then try and have as little inputs as possible. This transfer from moving platform to non-moving platform is super important, because if you don't make it, you just have to wait an extra cycle. Now I'm going to set a save state here and show you, you really want to be aligned with that black pole. So you really want to be aligned with that black pole, just sort of make it tap off of this, hold down a little bit, and then right as you hit the hill, you want to hit the hill. Make sure that you hit the hill. So right as you sort of hit the hill, you hold up there. You can miss by being a little bit too far to the left, as I showed you. You can miss by being a little bit too far to the right as well. And you can also miss by just not hitting the hill. So this is kind of what happens. And it makes it like very difficult to bounce into the goal if you don't hit the hill. As you see, I'm trying to get accomplished here. I've actually never done that before, so just make sure you sort of take your time here, align yourself with the black pole here, take that down flick, and then hold up. Additionally, you can get a first cycle where you can sort of just go for this clip here and then get up. And once again, you can align yourself with that black pole and then get into the goal. You can get a 48 there. You don't have to go for the clip. There are a couple of different ways to get on that. So a lot of people sort of like riding this and then getting up here. I find it more comfortable to take the clip, but really it's whatever you want. And it's a 10-second time save, so if you're comfortable with it, I would recommend it, but it's not necessary. So now sort of the gimmick of this stage is when you press the button, the dominoes go down. And additionally, if you see the stage, the goal platform is also a domino. So eventually the goal is just going to fall down. I would recommend going left at first and then just sort of wrapping around here. You do need to end up on sort of like the top right of the platform and go in here, just as long as you make it here before 35 seconds. So I'll just sort of show you what happens here. Depending on when you hit the button there, the domino can just kind of hit you. You can wait to get into the goal there, but I'll sort of show you what a full attempt looks like. You can just hold up into the button from the beginning also. So as I mentioned earlier, sometimes button collision is really bad. You can just hold up, and honestly, I would probably recommend it. Now additionally, you can take the right side and save a couple of seconds here, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. There's a bit of a timing issue here where you do need to go a little bit faster, and I'll sort of show you. You need to get past this here by 53 seconds if you just hold up into the button. And additionally, I'll go ahead and show you what the goal looks like if you don't hit the button. So here is what the goal looks like if you don't hit the button. So you want to make sure to hit that. And I'll sort of show you how long it takes for the domino to hit you off. So you kind of get to this here, and you're sort of in a weird spot here. You can't even make it past. In fact, you need to go back around to the left side. So just make sure that if you're going to take the right side here, you're pretty comfortable with going fast. And make sure you don't stay on this platform here too. You can take your time once you're past this specific corner because it takes a while for the dominoes to catch up, as you see. So just make sure that you get past that part pretty quickly if you're going to take the right side. Now for Civ, this stage is kind of frustrating because sometimes it seems like you're in the middle of the platform, but you still get clipped off. I would wait here if I were you, and then just sort of line up the center. You really want to make sure that you're in the center here, because I'll sort of show you what it looks like if you're a little bit ventured off to the right. You could sort of get hit, and as you see, I was pretty much in the center, just drifted off a little bit to the right there. So you really want to make sure that you sort of manipulate the camera here and then stay in the middle as much as you possibly can. Now finally, I will show off this last transfer and how to do it. I'll wait for the second cycle here. So you want to wait for the Civ to pass. So you want to see it pass, and then you sort of transfer here. You can sort of like wait in that divot there. So like, I'll wait for it to pass once again. You can sort of like wait in this divot and you won't fall, but it is a lot harder to sort of get in the goal there. So I would recommend sort of practicing this transfer from green platform to orange back to green. Additionally, if you want, you could sort of do like a miniature cycle skip that'll save about 4 to 5 seconds here, so you don't wait for these things and you sort of line this up quickly. The main issue with that, however, is that you don't have that much time to line up your shot forward, and if you sort of align it to the left or the right too much, you really can mess yourself up there just for a 4 or 5 second time save. So just make sure that if you're going to go ahead and do this sort of cycle skip and you don't wait for the things to pass, you're comfortable setting that up pretty quickly. So now for Flock, there are a few different ways you can do this stage, and I'll show off 16 Flock at first. So you just sort of go forward. Just go forward, make sure that the square is below you, and you can make it so this is the 3rd square now. We're going to go on the 4th square soon. Once you get to the 4th square, you can drop down from the 5th to the 6th immediately, and then you could drop from the 7th to the 8th immediately, and then everything else is just 1 square at a time. So just keep that in mind, because also you can save a couple of seconds if you do those cycle skips. And really, I don't think 16 Flock is too bad. I think you're really just going forward, and you just have to make those double transfers at first. Now, I do have a save state here, because if you're doing the same strat, you could sort of wait on this one and then make this miniature optimization here to go ahead and get a 24 instead of a 16. So you're sort of going on this sort of lower square, and you wait until about like 31 and a half or so, and it's sort of like a up and up right into down left. This saves about 8 seconds, so if you do have save states, I would recommend practicing it, because it does take a while to get here. And really, it is worth the 8 seconds. I don't think it's too difficult, but it does take a little bit of adjustments to get used to here. Now finally, I'll show off 32 Flock, where the beginning is a little bit tricky here. So I like waiting at the back of this sort of 2nd square, and I go at about 47.5, and I sort of make this sweep. It is pretty precise, so like the timing, I do use a pretty specific timer cue. So I might not recommend this to start out with. In fact, I really wouldn't recommend this to start out with, because the beginning is sort of difficult, and then you could do that 8-second time save at the end. But I just thought that just in case you're a little bit further past your beginning career here, you can go ahead and get a 32 pretty safely, as long as you get that beginning down. So now for Double Spiral, this is a stage where you really want to stay in the middle or a little bit faster than it. So just note, it's really important to know this, that it's better to be a little bit fast than it is a little bit slow. So I'm a little bit fast here because I'm closer to the right side. You can just kind of make up left and left adjustments. You can even go down left if you want, but if you're too slow, let me go ahead and show you what that looks like here. So you really are gonna have a difficult time if you're too slow, if you're close to the left side. And just to clarify here, if you're a little bit too fast, you're going to be closer to the right side. If you're a little bit too slow, you're going to be closer to that left side. And I'm going to try and show off what too slow is again. You're really going to have issues here if you're too slow. It's a lot more of a fight. So I'd stay a lot closer to the right side. Once again, you do want to make constant adjustments here. So it's sort of like spiral bridge where you are kind of flicking up or up left a little bit. And you don't need to go crazy. Once again, you sort of need to play at the game speed for this stage as well. And finally, in order to get to the goal here, it seems a little bit weird. You're going to need some more up left than you think. So it looked like I was left of the goal there, but I even held up left into the goal, and I was still pretty much in the middle of the tape there. So just note that you're probably going to need a little bit more up left than usual. There is a first cycle strat on this stage. I really wouldn't recommend it. There's just a lot of collision that takes into account there. Alright, so now we are going to be showing off hierarchy, and really the gimmick of this stage is that there is a circle in the middle of the platform and that you need to fall down it. But if you fall down the center of it, you're just kind of going to die there as the circles get a little bit larger each time. So really what you need to do is you need to make this sort of transfer here where it's like you go an edge here and then you just make sure that you have enough space. I would really recommend falling off of a platform or falling off of a part of a circle that's closest to a corner instead of closest to this edge here, so that you could sort of fall on this corner platform. As you see, the corner platform sort of has a lot more room here than the edge, and it especially will at the end. So I'll show this off one more time here. And as you see, just this corner platform really has a lot more room than this edge does, which is why I would recommend falling off of the corner instead. So now I'll show it off another time where it's a little bit more optimized here, and really once again I just sort of stick to the edges. You are going to use a lot of like down right and down left on the stage if you do this strat, so just beware of that. And just take your time getting into the goal there, because if you do bonk off of a goalpost, you're probably gonna die. So just thought I would point that out there. Additionally, there is sort of a strat where you can kind of fall off of the side there and then get on the last platform. There are a decent amount of ways to fail the stage, so I'm gonna go off too late here on purpose, and you're gonna kind of hit this. Then additionally, I can go off too early, and then I'm gonna get this. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they might go off too late here, and then they hold more down. And what sort of happens is that they don't hit that upper part of the hierarchy or upper part of that square the second time, and they just end up kind of falling off there. So I'll show off what I mean like this. If you kind of want to hit that corner just to ensure safety. And in fact, I kind of hold down left or up left into it just to get a little bit more friction off of it, just to make sure that I'm going to land pretty safely. So as you see, I kind of held up left into that. And this is a pretty precise falling strat, so if you're just starting out, you really don't have to worry about this. But I thought I would show it off for somebody who's a little bit further down their path. Now for 8 bracelets, this is really a stage that a lot of people mess up with for multiple reasons. So I think the first reason is that they land kind of in the center here, and that just kills their momentum. And then they're just stuck here, and they're trying to make this transfer, but it's just not happening. Something that I would really recommend, first of all, you need to be good at camera control, but you also need to just ride each bracelet as high as you possibly can. So I'm going to show you sort of what that looks like here. And you want to make the transfer to hit the upper part of the other bracelet as well. Like, you really want to avoid landing in the middle there, just so you can get as much speed as you possibly can. And that's actually how you get the red goal as well. You don't need the red goal. But that's really how you want to be thinking about this stage, is just riding each bracelet as high as you possibly can. And I'll show off sort of, if you're bad at air control, you might just accidentally land there. If you're bad at air control, again, you might sort of mess up that transfer as well. These transfers are pretty precise, so I will note that this is something you just kind of have to practice a lot. I sort of do like a up left into down right, or up right into down left. So that's sort of like, I almost do like a circular where I'm sort of like this, if that makes sense. It's not like a strict. So I'll try and show that off again there. It really does help sort of just getting yourself in the correct position. And really just, once again, the main thing that you want to focus on is sort of riding each bracelet as much as you possibly can. Just kind of think about that circular movement that I'm doing on the input display here. And that's sort of how I would think about that stage. Now, finally, for quick turn, you get a break here. Just hold up. Do not overcomplicate the stage. Just hold up. It works every time. You have to hold up before the stage starts, however, and you need to be in the GameCube notch. Just make sure, though, that you don't wait a little bit, so I'll sort of show off what that looks like. If you wait a little bit before you hold up here. Yeah, it's just not going to treat you well here. I'll show off a little bit of boosting as well, and then I'm just going to kind of throw myself at the stage here. Yeah, I mean, really, just hold up on the stage. Don't overcomplicate it. And I understand that this is a pretty big difficulty spike from last world, but I know you can really get through it, and I'm going to go ahead and see you in World 8. Alright, so we're going to be starting off World 8 with pistons here. This is a really hard stage because not only do you have to deal with wires, but you have to deal with moving platforms trying to hit you off here. So just make sure that you align the camera with the wire that you want to go on here, and you use the bananas as a safe spot. So really, once you align the camera, I would only try and use 3 inputs here, just up, neutral, and down. And just make sure that before you transfer, all of those pistons are kind of shooting up around you, so that you make sure that those pistons aren't shooting up while you're moving on the wire. And I'll go ahead after this and show you what it looks like when the pistons are shooting up when you're on the wire instead of the safe spot. So sort of sure maybe you're moving a little bit too fast here, and you just get nailed. So really, the most important part here is you might want to take your time here, and you can even wait at the starting platform before all of the pistons go up, and then you can just kind of align your camera here and wait in the safe spots. And it's just really important, once again, to keep the camera on the wire that you want to be moving on, and that can happen if you are not in a safe spot. So now there's a strat where you can sort of wait at this first banana here, and once all of the pistons go up, you sort of align yourself with the left side a little bit, and then you can just sort of go to the goal here. Now just note that there are 7 bananas that you need to collect on this specific path, and take whatever path is easiest for you to memorize. I personally think it's this one, so you get 5 bananas while going on an upright path. So I'm currently on the upright path. So 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I switch directions, 1, 2. And then I'm at the goal, and you see my score is 700. 100 for each banana there. And there's also a 48 strat, where instead of staying at the first banana, you stay at the second banana. You sort of need to rush it a little bit there, so that's why a lot of people don't like starting out with that. And in fact, I wouldn't even start out with 46 at first either. What I would sort of recommend you do is you could wait here and wait for that first piston to shoot, and then you can kind of go. So then you could go sort of 2 bananas forward and stop, and then sort of go 3 bananas forward, and really take your time making some miniature adjustments here, because that's an extremely important part of the stage, because once you make that adjustment, you're almost at the goal there. Now finally, what I will say about the stage is that a lot of people do like taking the ending a little bit fast, and what ends up happening is that they sort of either clip the side here or they hit the goalpost and they fall off. This ending platform is really small, so just make sure that even though if you're right here, and it does seem like the goal is really easy to get to, you can hit the goalpost and fall off, so just thought I would point that out. Now for soft cream, this is sort of similar but really different to double spiral in a way, because it does sort of look like double spiral. However, you do want to be a little bit more towards the back than towards the front. So I'll show you. Here's more towards the back, where if you're too far towards the back, you could die there. But if you're more towards the front as well, you almost have no shot. So here I'm more towards the front, and you just kind of immediately get sent off there. And note how there's 5 buttons. It starts on the pause button. The pause button is way on the right side, like it is on bead screen. And just make sure that you're hitting this play button here if you want to take it nice and slow. I try and stay in the middle, but maybe a little bit closer to the left side here. And then you just kind of want to do some right inputs or right flicks here. And then when you see that ending platform, you want to make sure to hold up, because you can die there by sort of taking it too slow, or by just by taking it too fast as well. So I'll sort of show you what that looks like here. So I see the corner. If I hold up, this is a little bit too fast, and it sends me in that direction. If I'm a little bit too slow, I could get sent in this direction. So you could make this input a little bit earlier, but you will need some up left if you go a little early. You'll need some up right if you go a little bit late. So just kind of know that there. And you can also do this on double speed. If you're comfortable with how the soft cream is moving, you can do this on double speed. It really is the same strat. You just need to do the same inputs, just a little bit quicker. You can really save a lot of time doing it as well. So usually if you go single speed, you could get a 42 or 43, and with this you could get a 48. So now for momentum, I would really try and get this done within 2 transfers. So I'll go ahead and show you what these transfers look like. It happens every 2.5 seconds, so at about 52.5 you want to go, at about 50 you want to go, and at about 47.5 you want to go. So it just kind of keeps being pretty consistent here, but the hard part of this stage is this part. So you can just be here and get hit off. And really what I would recommend is you kind of go fast here. You're going to transfer at 55, and then you can take your time to go around a little bit there, and then get into the goal there. Really, I think it's a lot easier if you do have some momentum going into the transfer and then going past that middle portion, because that middle portion is really the hardest part of the stage. Once you get down the transfers here, once again every 2.5 seconds, then just getting past the middle part is the hardest part here. So this is sort of going to set the tone for going fast is easier. Where you'll see in a lot of other stages going fast is easier on this stage as well. So let me just go ahead and show you what one more clean attempt looks like. And once again, I would highly recommend the outside. I can go ahead and show you what the inside looks like as well, and why I wouldn't really recommend it. It's a lot narrower of a path here. So let me just do one more transfer here. And then it's really kind of a narrow path, and if you don't make it, you're pretty much dead there too. So once again, if possible, I would really highly recommend taking that stage a little bit quicker. Now there are 2 strats that I would recommend here. There's one strat where you can go ahead and get a green goal. You want to hit this button as fast as you possibly can, and really this stage you need to go fast in order to get the goal here. So just make sure you hit that button as fast as you possibly can, and you're not going to hit any other button. You're just going to sort of wait here until the end. And as you see, there's the path lined up there. That's for a different strat that I'll show off a little bit later. And I'd probably recommend that blue goal strat a little bit more than the strat that I'm showing off here. but it's really whatever you're comfortable with, and this also works. So just make sure that if you are going to do this strat, you go as fast as you possibly can to hit that button, make sure it clicks as well, and I'll go ahead and show you what you need to do. So it's going to be pretty tight here, so you're going to need to go a little bit before it stops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you could sort of fall off here and then get into the goal. It really, you don't have that much time. so I thought I would show off this strat. It is not too horrible, but you just want to make sure you're going a little bit early and go off number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then land on the platform. I would recommend, if possible, you try and hit one bounce and then get into the goal if you're gonna go ahead and do that strat. But really, there is a strat that's a little bit faster, and I personally think it's easier, so let me go ahead and show you that as well. You don't need to rush this, but what you will need to do is you'll eventually need to hit that play button. The reason why we hit this button is just to sort of speed it up and to get a little bit closer to that kind of one stopping point. I'll show you what I mean by that, and then I'll set a save state here. I would stay not on the circle, but right before it. And then sort of right before it locks, I'm going to hold up, and then I'm going to hold neutral right there. The way that I know when to hold neutral is II has 3 specific screams, so he's going to kind of like make some noises, but he'll have 3 specific screams that are a little bit louder. Right in the middle of those 2 screams, it's going to be the second to last bounce and the last bounce. That's when you're going to hold neutral, so I'll try and sort of show you that audio here, so just pay attention right now. So hopefully you heard those sort of screams. He goes like, ah, 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 and then right in the middle of the second and the third one, I would hold neutral. And once again, sort of the place where you want to stay, I stay right before the circle, and then once again, I leave right before it kind of locks out there. Now, this is just another stage where faster is easier. Totters is also a stage where faster is easier. Excuse me, I just kind of loaded into Entangled Path again there, but this is another stage where faster is easier, and I'll go ahead and show you. You can just bounce on each totter here and just kind of like ride that scoop in the last one. The reason why I wouldn't recommend doing this casually is because really the totters tilt a lot, and it's like kind of hard to make them tilt in a way where you want to, and really this is one of the most difficult stages casually in my opinion. So doing it faster is significantly easier, and obviously it's faster, so you can just kind of bounce on each of these platforms and get to the goal here. There's sort of a specific setup that you could do where you hold up, you neutral at the end, and then you sort of like hold up left at that first bounce. The way that I would do this, once again, hold neutral here, hold up left, and then kind of hold down left once you get into the air here. There are a couple of ways that you can fail this strat as well. So if you hold up left too early, so like that, it's just you're going to be sent in a really bad direction there. And then if you hold up left too late, you'll also be sent in the same direction, which is kind of funny. And there's not really that much amount of down left that'll be able to save it there, so hold neutral there, and then kind of up left right as you hit the bounce, and then get into the goal there. That's really the only strat that I would recommend other than just bouncing on every single platform there. Taking it fast on these stages, once again, is going to be a lot easier, so you need to be comfortable with going fast here. Alright, so now we're going to get into Vortex here, and really this is a stage where kind of the entire platform is moving here, and the camera angle is really bad, so just make sure that your minimap is zoomed in, and I almost might make adjustments based off of where you're at in the minimap. So the majority of this is going to be left and down left, and then you sort of kind of get to the middle of this vortex here. You're going to get turned around once again, so I make inputs sort of based off of where you are in the minimap, and I'll go ahead and show off what this third cycle sort of looks like here. I would try and recommend second cycle, and I'll show you why in a second here. And really, I just think that the second cycle is faster and easier. Obviously, you do need to go a little bit faster. Once the vortex slows down, I would really try and go fast here in the middle to just sort of quickly get to that other edge. And really, this transfer is just kind of easy there. And even if you do fall off, you're gonna have this bottom blue platform. You don't need the green goal. You could just get any goal to move on in story mode. And really just know that this first portion that you can't see in, you're going to be holding a lot of left and a lot of down left. So just keep that in mind here. And then a lot of left and down left on the second one as well. And you could just sort of make this nice and easy transfer here. Now additionally, there's another strat where you can do where I'll load the save state here. I personally find it a little bit easier. So instead of going the other way, you go this way. And then you just sort of make this transfer here. It's similar to the third cycle transfer, except the vortex is actually closer to the goal, because when you're sort of doing that third cycle on the old strat, the vortex is sort of swinging more in the middle here. So what you will need to know for this strat is that you kind of do a little bit of a right input and then hold left at the beginning, and you're really going to need to hold a lot of left down, and then for the sort of transfer, you're going to need to hold a lot of right. And additionally, if you're looking to optimize this a little bit, you can hit the fast backwards button and then wait on that for about 2 seconds, and then hit the backwards button, and then it's going to show up a little bit faster there. Once again, the inputs are the same, but the time is just faster. You have to wait less. You can even get a 45 if you optimize that a little more, so I thought I would just show that off there. Now for warp, a lot of people die on the stage because they don't really know where to go on the slope. So I'd sort of recommend, especially for the first two, just kind of go in the middle there. You can kind of do a mixture of up left and neutral flicks. The neutral flicks should be pretty quick. They shouldn't be anything too long. And then here you're going to want to be a little bit closer to the bumpers here. You can really kind of quickly switch off in between up left and neutral there. And another way that people die is they sort of go on the edge and they hold the same input that's sort of making them go down the slope. So let me sort of show off what I mean by that. So if you're kind of going down the slope and you're holding left here, they just kind of continue holding left and then you end up dying. So let me show that off once again. So they're just trying to save it by holding the same input, and really it doesn't work. So let me just sort of try and trigger that again and show you how to save it. So really, you can just hold the down diagonal here before you fall off, and then you're probably going to need the up diagonal there as well. And then on this platform, it's pretty popular to need some down right here. And really, you might need to hold down right until you're like facing the bumpers, and then you could just sort of like flick up right there. And even if you're kind of going fast there, you want to make sure that you're sort of at the upper middle portion of that sort of third tilting platform. And really, if you're just above the middle there, you should be okay, but you can also hit the bumpers. I will show you that there is a green goal. Don't do this in runs, it's just more risky and it's slower. And the bumpers can just kind of send you in multiple places, so I thought I would show that off as well. And let me go ahead and show off a little bit of an optimized warp so you can sort of see what that looks like. As you see, I'm sort of hanging by the bumpers, but I'm leaving enough room there to where I'm sort of comfortable. And then I'm going to need a little bit of down left for that turn, and then sort of just making sure I keep my distance, but I'm relatively close there. So now for trampolines, this is pretty similar to Jump Machine, except the platforms are a lot less here. And as you see, it's just sort of as those black bars kind of reach the end of the platform, the black part shoots up, and you can see that here coming into play. If you stand at the end of this black platform, you can land on the non-black platform above you, which is a safe space that's really not sort of shooting you upwards. So If you're looking to take this a little bit slower, I would recommend maybe starting out at the back of this platform here. However, you will need to deal with a little bit of speed here. Not at this platform, but the next one. I could sort of show you a safe way to turn around here, and then you could wait a couple of cycles. But however, you will land on the black part of the platform pretty much no matter what when you're transferring to the second to last platform. And then finally, this entire last platform is a trampoline, so just know that if you don't think you can make it, you can just wait a cycle and make sure that you don't get hit by the backboard of the party ball here. So let me show off sort of what a normal speed regular trampolines would look like. So I would go here, I'd land on the black portion, and I'd turn around using a lot of down right there, and then I would sort of get on the slat platform here so I can get a 45 or a 46. And once again, like I said, you can wait a couple of cycles. I would definitely recommend waiting a couple of cycles just to start out so you can land here, wait for it to go, then you could go here, and then wait for this to go here, and then just make sure you stop if you're gonna let the platform hit you up, and you could just kind of take your time adjusting the camera, and then you wait another cycle here, and then just kind of hold up there and go into the goal. Now finally, there is a miniature cycle skip that you could do that I want to show off. It kind of looks like that. And then you could end up getting sort of a high 48, and if you really optimize the ending, you could get a low 49. Sort of the way that I do this is I hold up, and then I hold up left right before the collision, and then I'm going to hold up left into down left, and then sort of to set up that next turn, I'm going to hold down right so I can sort of face that trampoline a little bit better, and I'll show you what I mean. So as you see, I had the down right there to sort of face that trampoline, and then you can kind of optimize that ending for a high 48. Now once again, I just want to reiterate that it is important to just have camera management, just to be able to look in the direction that you want to look, because if you're not really looking in the direction, or you're sort of looking here, sometimes it's hard to know where to go. And just knowing where each of the trampolines are is really important, because if you're sort of overshooting it, you're overshooting the up, or you're undershooting the up, it is really hard to know where to go. So I just thought I would point that out there as well. Now for swing shaft, sort of the way to do the stage is stay on the platform that's tilting up. So sort of you can see it's about to transfer, and then just stay on the platform that's tilting up here, and then you could sort of make this transfer here and wait for the platform that's tilting up, and then do it again. And really the point of doing that, one, is to fall off, but two is because of this transfer. A lot of people die on the transfer from the swing shaft to the wire. And really, if you're trying to make the transfer from a lower platform to the wire, you're just not going to be able to do it here. And really, you want to take this slow. Like, I just need to make you aware that you should be taking this slow, because this is a wire. It's not a large platform by any means. And once you get past that wire, you really have a large platform to go on and get into the goal. However, a lot of people do goal post and fall off here, so just thought I would let you know about that as well. And here I could show you a little bit of a faster version. You don't need the clip there. I accidentally ended up getting one. And then you could just sort of safely make that transfer. Once again, take your time on the wire there. And you could really optimize this a lot more than that as well. But I just wanted to make sure that you know you want to be on the upper part of a platform as much as you possibly can. So here, if you could take the beginning fast and you don't like taking this part fast, you could kind of hold down there. And whichever direction the swing shaft is tilting upwards, you can hold that input. So if it's tilting left, you see me holding a lot of left. If it's tilting right, you see me holding a decent amount of right there. And then I can kind of just safely tap and make this transfer here. And once again, you will need to make like sort of miniature inputs, so sort of those taps instead of holds, in order to make that transfer successful. Now finally, for linear seesaws, this is one of the easier stages of the world. You get kind of a nice break. Really, the main gimmick here is that you want to not go too slow. So as you saw, I went too slow there, and if you go a little bit too slow here, the seesaw just tilts so much that you're not able to go up it. And you can go too fast as well, so I'll sort of show off what that looks like here. You could just kind of like full send. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but you don't have to full send, but just don't go slow here. So just make sure that you're going a little bit fast so that it doesn't tilt too much on you, and then you could sort of slowly make this transfer here and get into the goal. Now, I know World 8 is really hard. A lot of people consider it to be the hardest stage in the run. There's a lot of moving platforms, there's a lot of wires, there's a lot of weird camera angles and transfers that you have to deal with, but I know you'll get through it, and I will go ahead and see you in World 9. Alright, so we're going to be starting off with serial jump here, and if you sort of see the gimmick of this stage, there's a bunch of circular platforms with holes in the middle of them, and they're tilting downwards, so if you go too slow, you're just going to fall down here, and if you go too fast, you can obviously fall off, but you will need to make some transfers eventually, so I'll show you how to do that. As you see, there's an arrow to show you where the next kind of hole is, but if you make the transfer at the arrow, you're going to be too late. You're always going to be too late if you make the transfer at the arrow, so I'll sort of hold up right here to make the transfer before, and then I'll hold up left so that you can just sort of neutralize that upright and make sure you land in the middle there of that next circle. So I'll sort of show that off again. If you transfer too late, you're going to be at a really bad angle there, so just thought I would show that off here. And additionally, you can go off of the left side and save about 3.5 or 4 seconds. Once again, make the transfer before the arrow and just sort of land in the goal there. The goal landing, it requires some neutral and maybe some upright if you go off a little bit early. So once again, I'll show you what it looks like if you go off at the arrow. You're just going to be at a really bad position here, and you could still maybe get into the goal, but I even got lucky there. So I'll show you what too early looks like as well, where you're just sort of here and there's not enough right and down right that you can do there. If you're looking for a strat that's a little bit like faster, maybe you can go for the green goal. I'm not going to do it anymore because I really wouldn't recommend it. I would just sort of recommend the faster blue goal. And if you're really looking to optimize the stage, you can just go for the red goal here, so you do a little bit of a boost. You make sure that you have to neutral flick, and you can neutral flick a little bit more in the air, but the reason why we neutral flick at the beginning too is that you could sort of like bonk off of this beginning platform here, and that just, you know, you're dead immediately if you hit that thing. So you can do even a miniature neutral flick here and overshoot it at the beginning and just sort of make another neutral flick there. Some people like going off of the left side. I personally prefer the left side because you have more of an angle here. You might lose like a frame or two, but really that's not a big deal here. You're still going to get a 55.7 or 55.6, and really just make sure you're throwing a little bit of neutral there in the air. Now for cross floors, the main thing about cross floors is that you just want to make these transfers, and that there's just a bunch of tilting platforms here, and then you just make the transfers correctly. You want to make sure to hold up left or up right before the platform, and you want to get a little bit of height on each platform. You really don't want to be in the middle, and you really don't want to be below it. And I'll sort of show you why you don't want to be below it here, because if you're here, you could just sort of fall down. You could be in a similar position that you are in warp, when you're just sort of like falling off the side there. And really, I would sort of just recommend, if you want to take it a little bit slower, you could do a little bit of neutral flicks, but really I would only recommend neutral flicks and the upwards diagonal there. Now you can also take this pretty fast. I would recommend taking it fast, or at least trying to play around with taking it fast, because really once you sort of reach the halfway point of each of the floors, you could just sort of switch diagonals there, and you're just sort of switching from up left to up right. And as you see my input display, it's literally just 2 inputs here. This is really just meant to teach you some transfers from one platform to another. Just make sure you're getting a little bit of height so that you don't fall off, but also you can sort of fall off the upwards portion, so I thought I would show you that as well, but really that's not as common. So now for spinning saw, there are a couple of strats you could do here, and I'll go ahead and show off the casual way of completing it here, where you sort of land on the spinning saw and then you just sort of wait for it here and then get into the goal. If you're gonna do this strat, I would sort of try and get close to the goal in the beginning here. So you just want to get a little bit closer to the goal because the spinning saw isn't spinning as fast. I'll show you what happens when it does spin a little bit faster a little bit later, and it's sort of harder to get into the goal there. The camera spins a lot more, so sort of hang out here and you'll see that it goes a little bit faster just right now, and then it's just kind of really hard to get a good camera angle there, and sometimes you can almost feel stuck on the goal tape like I just was right there. So another strat that you could do is you can wait for about 0.6, so a little bit more than half a second, and just hold up. This is a really good strat in that really it works from about 59.6 until 59.2. Just make sure that your first input is neutral and your second input is up, and that's it. So say you leave too early and then you're like, oh wait, I left too early and I want to make some neutral flicks, I got a speed bump there. You can get in the goal, but oftentimes you'll just get weird collision off of the spinning saw, kind of like that. And really just make sure that if you feel like it was a little bit too, it goes from 59.6 to like 59.2 here. So if you feel like you were a little bit too early or a little bit too late, you could just sort of retry and just try again. I mean, really, this is a very lenient strat, and I would highly recommend this because if you do miss the frame range, you could just retry again really quickly. Now, finally, there are just some boosting patterns you could do here. You just have to make sure you throw some neutral in here. So I'd take sort of a right wall, or right frame boost, left wall, right wall, and then I'd sort of neutral here. This really isn't too difficult. Just the main thing that you want to do is make sure to neutral, or make sure that your walls aren't that amazing, because sometimes walls can send you in weird directions there if you take them too aggressively like I did there. And then if you sort of just full send here, you can get a speed bump, and that can happen. And if you do notice that you get a speed bump, you can just neutral for a little bit longer there. And really the adjustment isn't that bad, so I'd recommend that as well. Alright, so now we're going to get into chip pipes here, and there are a couple of different ways where you could do this strat. So I'll first show off the casual strat here, where you're just sort of transferring from one to the other. Just make sure that if you need to go in one specific direction, you are holding that sort of upwards diagonal, because you can kind of just get stuck here if you just keep making this and you're not holding any diagonal here. So just make sure that kind of when you're at that peak, you do hold upright or up left, depending on what side you're on. If you're on the left side, you're going to hold up right. If you're on the right side, you're going to hold up left. Additionally, there is a green goal strat where it's pretty much just the same, but the transfers have a little bit more space in between them. The time that you're going to get is the same there. You saw me get a slower time because I just sort of turned around there. But it's not any faster, and you don't really need the green goal. There are ways to make this faster here. So if you take two kind of smaller walls, you sort of land in the middle, and you sort of like graze that side, you can enter the goal. Now, some ways to fail this strat are if your walls aren't big enough and you don't graze the side. So that kind of happens. If your walls are a little bit better, you can get a clip off of the first side there, and that's not really what you want either. But if you go kind of too far to the right, that can happen as well. So just make sure that if you're going to take the small walls and no frame boost, you really sort of set yourself up to graze the side there and get into the goal. Now additionally, if you want sort of larger walls and that's something you're more comfortable with, you can take that and sort of go without grazing the side there. However, if your walls are too good, obviously my walls aren't going to be too good there because of the first one, but if your walls are too good, then you could just fall through the center. So let's see if I can get some really good walls here. And obviously, if you get too aggressive of a last wall there, you could just be in a really bad position to be able to set the strat up. I'm trying to get a good wall and just show you how you can fall through the floor here. Let's see if I get it here. But yeah, just make sure that your walls are good but not amazing if you're going to go for this strat. There we go. So I just really wanted to show that off there. So just make sure that your walls aren't amazing if you're going to go for that sort of non-grazing the side strat. So now for flat maze, I think this is a really frustrating stage for people because first of all, they don't know where to go, and second of all, when they do know where to go, they don't have that much time, so they could do something like that when they're really rushing it a little bit. I'll go ahead and show you the strat that I would recommend if you're really like trying to do this as casual as possible. Just setting save states here because the stage is so long. So really, I would make this clip. I would make that clip, and I'll show you why in a second. I'm probably going to finish with about 4 or 5 seconds anyway, and I would really, if you're considering doing the casual strat, I would replay this as much as I possibly can just to learn sort of where to go, because if you make a wrong turn, you're pretty much going to time over. Like, if you make a wrong turn, you're not going to have enough time to complete the stage, as you already see. I'm sort of ticking down at the end here, and my movement on this is pretty decent. I'm not trying to make it amazing or anything. And as you see, I finished with 5 seconds left, even with that clip. And without the clip, I think it saves about 4 or 5 seconds, so I would finish with less than a second left there. However, I wouldn't really recommend the strat. The strat that I would recommend here is you sort of just clip this. You sort of just like clip this inside, and then right when you get airtime, like right when you're kind of at the peak of your jump there, I would hold down. I'm clipping off of the inside of this, so I'll sort of show you why I wouldn't skip that and sort of clip off of like the corner there. You can just get sent in so many different directions if you try to get clipped off the corner, so it worked for me there, but really, see, I'm just getting so many different collisions, so many different speeds, and a lot of these are unworkable. So really what I would recommend is sort of getting this inside clip. Obviously that was way too deep there. You can go too deep, you can go too shallow where it just ends up you're clipping off of this thing. So I'd really recommend just sort of grazing the inside there and getting to the goal. It saves about 40 seconds, like 40. So if this is something that you can get comfortable with here, I would highly recommend it. And just sort of showing this off one more time, you do need a decent amount of speed, so just note that as well. You can't just like go up here and then do that, so just know that you need a decent amount of speed in order to get this work as well. Finally, if you're someone that's a little bit better at air control, this strat I would highly recommend. It's really just the main portion of it is you want to hold up left into the kind of bottom left corner there. You need to neutral flick here, just make sure you do that. And holding up left into that bottom corner will ensure that you get enough height and you get a good angle at the goal. So I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like if you hold up left sort of at the middle of the platform here. So if you hold up left there, there's not enough down left that you could do to make that work. So that's sort of the hardest part of that strat. Also know that if you go a little bit too far to the right here, if you even line up with this second line, so as you see I start out here, if you line up with the second line, you're too far to the right. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like again here. So just make sure you're a little bit left of that second line. I sort of like going in the middle of the first and the second here. Once again, make sure you neutral flick, because if you get a speed bump there, then you could just hit the first platform. And I'll go ahead and do some walls just to show you what that looks like here. So that can happen and just totally screw up the strat there. So just make sure you're doing that neutral flick. Alright, so now for guillotine, I think the biggest issue that people have with guillotine is that they sort of don't put enough space in between them and the first ramp, and then they try and get up it, and then they just kind of are stuck here, and then they go backwards, and then they try and get up the ramp here, and then they just sort of get hit by the guillotine afterwards. So really what I would do for this first ramp, and actually for the last ramp, but I'll get there in a second. So for this first ramp, you set a good amount of space in between you and the ramp, and wait until the guillotine shadow goes over you. So you just saw this sort of shadow cross the monkey there, and then after that, for every ramp except for the last, you wait until the guillotine goes over the topmost portion of the ramp, and then for here you could sort of align yourself with the last portion of the not ramp, so the last portion of the platform, and then wait until the guillotine goes over you, and then you should be good to get into the goal there. So really, just the main thing here is if you wait until the guillotine goes over the top platform here, you're gonna get hit off. Sort of the place where you don't get hit off is like sort of like 6 squares or 7 squares back. And I'm just trying to show you a reference here of where the guillotine swings. I barely snuck under there. So it's just sort of wait until the guillotine goes over you here, and then it'll just sort of swing over, and you should have more than enough room to get into the goal. So I'll show you sort of what an optimized guillotine looks like here, and I'm not skipping any cycles, but I'm just getting, the first cycle for everything here, and then you just wait until the guillotine swings over the top of each ramp. And then I sort of know that I have enough space to full send it, and there's the goal right there. Alright, so now for corkscrew. The thing about this stage is I think a lot of people don't realize why they die, so sort of try and address that here. So if you slow down sort of as much as you can, and you let the monkey sort of fall down, if you hold up left at about 40 miles an hour, then you can just sort of go in between those holes and do the rest of the stage casually here. The reason why people die is because they just have unfortunate timing to where they sort of go in the middle of those holes here. So let me show off what too early looks like. Let's go at about 20 miles an hour here. So you just sort of go in that hole if you go a little bit too late. And I'll say at about 60 miles an hour here. Then you could just sort of go through that hole as well. So just make sure that if you're going to do this casual strat, you sort of let the kind of stage pull you down and wait until about 40 miles an hour, and then hold up left so you can go in between those two holes. Now additionally, something else that you could do here is you could just hold up for a little bit less than 10 seconds. So if you hold up until about like 50.2 or so, you could just kind of safely do the same thing there and do the rest of the stage casually. In order to slow down on that second platform there, you hold a lot of down left. So the way that people optimize the stage is they'd hold like sort of down right or upright. But if you really are looking to slow down here, you'd go and hold down left. And you see that really just kills the speed there, just to be able to play it safe and get into the goal there. So once again, hold up until a little bit before 50, so at about like 50.2, and you should be good there. Now here's a little bit of an optimization of the stage, where you kind of hold up right here, and then at about 48.7, you switch to down left, and then you could sort of swing around like that. You can play this really, really aggressive as well, so I'll sort of show you what that looks like, but I'll show you the risks sort of doing that as well. So I'll go like this, and then really you're just kind of throwing yourself around like that. So just make sure that if you want to do this strat and then take it a little bit safer, you do that down left input a little bit earlier. So I like holding up right here, and then you do that down left input at like 49, so you can kind of play it safe and get into the goal there. I still got a 45, which is really fast, but if you want to sort of play it a little bit more aggressive, which I wouldn't really recommend, then you can hold down left a little bit later. So now for orbiters, there's really just kind of one gimmick of the stage here where you just sort of need to work on these transfers. So you could wait at the beginning, and then there's 1, 2, 3 transfers here, and then 1, 2 transfers here, and then you just want to safely get onto this platform. You see there's sort of a color difference, and now there isn't. But when it's flipped over and you're doing this strat, you will see the color difference, and you could get into the goal there. You sort of need to have a good sense of when the kind of orbiters are switching around here. So if you go a little bit too late, so like it's down there, and you kind of hold up like right when it stops, you're gonna be too late there. And then additionally, I'll show off too early is as well. And then you could do that, and you could just get a bunch of height there. If you have good air control, you can land. But it is really hard to land on the goal platform there, so I would just recommend that you sort of get a good feel of when this goes, and I'd recommend about right now, and then same thing there. Apologies for the noise outside here, but the strat that I would kind of recommend a little bit more here, you just drift to the right, and right as you land, you just hold neutral and get it to the goal there. So I wouldn't do any walls, I wouldn't do any frame boosts, you just sort of drift to the right there and then hold neutral right as you land. And you saw I even got a speed bump there, and I got no height. So if you hold up for a little bit too long, so I'll show you what that looks like, you're going to get height there. And there is a way to sort of optimize this to get a 54, but I really wouldn't recommend it. It's only like a 0.2 time save. And then if you hold neutral too early, you can kind of get clipped there. So I just sort of recommend holding up until you land. There's going to be another strat that's pretty much exactly like this that'll be in a couple of stages there, but that is what I would recommend on that stage. So now for Twin Basin. First of all, a lot of people die here in the beginning because they just don't go far enough. So you just need to make sure you have some speed there, and really you just see sort of a big difference in starting platform and this platform. So just make sure you sort of safely go here, and you sort of might be wrapping around this for a little bit. So just make sure that if you want to make the transfer, you're going to hold upwards diagonal. If you're going around the other way, you just hold the other upwards diagonal. So if you're going this way, then you'll hold upright. This platform is really large, so you don't need like a really precise down diagonal, but for this one, you kind of will. So this platform is a lot less wide here, so I do an upright and then a downright, and if I'm going in the other direction here, then I'm going to be doing an up left and then a down left. So just make sure you get that timing down as well. Hopefully the input display is helping here, and I'll show off sort of a mini optimized version without any clips here, so you could sort of take that a little fast, and then you could get some airtime and go in there. I will show off a miniature clip that you could get at the beginning. I wouldn't really recommend this because there's just a lot of different directions that you can go here. And if you don't do the full optimized strat, then you can end up getting some 52s. Once again, you don't really need to do this, so I just sort of make sure you go fast here to land on the platform, sort of take your time getting here, and then just focus on that up left to down left or up right to down right. Now for air hockey, there's one strat and one strat only that I would recommend. So you hold up from the beginning, and then right when you bounce, you neutral. So sort of just like orbiters there, but honestly this is a little bit easier. This is the fastest way to complete this stage. It's the speedrun strat, it's the easiest strat. I'll show you what too far looks like here, so I hold it for too long, and then you just sort of get bonked there. And then you hold it for not enough, and then you just sort of get bonked there. And really I'll show you, like, the air hockey loves just moving around in a bunch of different directions here. So as you see, there's a bunch of hitters, and it really just likes going in so many different directions here. So I would really recommend that you just sort of do the strat that I showed off a little bit earlier, so you don't want to deal with that there. And really, you're almost at the end here. There's one more world to go, and I'll go ahead and see you in World 10. So now we're in the final world of story mode, world 10, and we're going to start out with training. Now there are sort of 4 different paths you could take here. There's the kind of most wide path, second most wide path, and then you get to some pretty narrow paths here. There's no real reason to take this path and a run. As you see, sort of all of the paths here are the same length here, so I just thought I would show off the difference in length because there isn't any. So I would just recommend kind of going on this most wide path here and then sort of making sure you take your time and hold down. Once you get over the hill of this kind of last ramp, you really don't need that much speed to get over the last ramp here. Just make sure that you're not falling off one side or another, because based off the camera, you can kind of just sway in a different direction as you saw. Just make sure you're aligned with the camera there. You can take a wall, but additionally, if you take sort of a larger frame boost, I can show you, you can sort of fall off there. You can get sent in the direction that you want to get sent at. There's just a bunch of different outcomes here, so if you're going to take a wall, I might not recommend a frame boost at first. A wall can still make it a little bit faster, and then you could sort of optimize this last portion here like that. Additionally, there is a strat where you can go off of sort of the second ramp here, and then right as you enter the middle of the third ramp, you just sort of fall off the left side. This saves about 1.5 seconds, and really, I would recommend this if you're just trying to pick up something that helps with a little bit of air control. As you saw there, I had a lot less speed, so I had to make sure that I fell off a little bit later. And really, the strat isn't too difficult, but if you're not worried about 1.5 seconds, then you could just do the casual strat. So now for gimmick. This is a really intimidating stage to look at in the beginning here because there's just so much going on. So what I would do, I'd fall off the right side and use the mini map to sort of see where you're going here. And I'll show you first of all why you shouldn't go to the left side in the beginning. So this is the way to go after you hit the button. However, if you don't hit the button here, you see this platform is just not gonna let you go anywhere. So if you see that button kind of on the bottom right there, so I'll show you how you click that. So once again, I would use the mini map to your advantage to fall off here, and then I would not fall in the center. I'd make sure to sort of not fall on the button, because you could sort of get a bunch of different collisions here. You could just get sent in so many different directions. You can just not press the button and thought that you did press the button. As you see there, like the button is just not clicking, so I would not land on the button. There is a way where you can land before the button, like this, and then you could bounce on it the second time. If you want to do that, I would recommend it. It saves a little bit of time here. But it's just a miniature optimization that I thought I would show off if you were interested. Additionally, the reason why we press that button, once again, is because that second platform bounces down or goes down, but the first platform also goes down. So as you see, we're kind of rising here, and then we're able to go over. You're gonna need some speed for this transfer here. So I'd go, you don't need to go towards the back completely, but I would make sure to get a little bit of speed there and then complete the stage. I will note that this turn is hard to see, so just be a little bit careful there that you're not taking it too fast, because you could just kind of get sent off there. And however, there is this really big hill. Like I said, on slopes, once again, you want to sort of switch between up left and up right. You do have enough time to complete the stage here. I'll sort of show you a little version of a semi-optimized kind of gimmick with this slower fall. I'll show you that there's a faster fall that you could take as well. Show off what that looks like and sort of some timer cues that you could use. But really, you just need to sort of know where to go. You need to know that you need to go to the right side first and press the button in order to complete the entire stage. And you can go for clips on those turns, but I really wouldn't. Just don't worry about it. Just follow the path normally and complete the stage, really, because there's so many deaths that you could take here by just kind of being a little bit lackadaisical and not paying attention here because the stage is really long. And now I'm going to show off a little bit of faster falls here, so you can just kind of hold up, and then you can align with this right side here. Right when it hits about like 55.7, you could just sort of make that sweep there, and then you could go a little bit faster. If you're comfortable with air control, once again, I would highly recommend this. You might need a little bit of down left as well, but pretty much the main inputs here, I drift a little bit to the right, then you hold up right here, then you hold up left, and then you might need a little bit of down left there as well. And then I'll go ahead and finish off this attempt here and show you that it could be about a 14 or a 15 based off of how early you leave here. Once again, I would not run over that button at all when you're going from, you know, that platform with the button to the platform without the button. Just running over the button can give you multiple different collisions. This game's button collision is not the greatest, so I really would try and avoid landing on buttons or running over buttons as much as I possibly can. And once again, I'm switching from up left to up right here, and as you see, I'm gonna get a 14. So now we're going to get into mountain here, and really this is a stage that I think is easier when you go faster. So I'll sort of show you. It's really just a spinning platform. Your camera angle isn't the greatest. What you could do is you could go kind of off the upper left of that circle at about 56.0 and then make some left adjustments. You could also sort of go off the left of this circle at like 55.0, then make some left adjustments as well. I think that's a lot harder. The strat that I would recommend, you just kind of hold up until the end of the platform and then sort of sweep to left. But you want to make that really quickly, but it's not from here to here, it's from here to here, if that makes sense. So once again, I would look at my input display here, and that's sort of how you do that strat. And once again, you leave kind of like right here. So I would miss the strat because I need to make the inputs there. So I just wanted to show you sort of exactly where I'm doing that. So now I'll show you what too early is. I'll go a little bit early on purpose. And then I'll go a little bit late on purpose as well. But once again, I think this is significantly easier than doing something like this, because really you don't know where you are in reference to the goal for a really long time, and the same for the other strat as well. Really, it is whatever you're comfortable with if you're not comfortable with those fast adjustments here, but I'd recommend the 55 strat. So now for disorder. This is kind of a puzzle stage, but it's a pretty easy puzzle stage, whereas you sort of know where you're going the entire time. So I'll show off the casual strat here. This portion can be a little bit tricky here because there's this horizontal platform where you can't really go anywhere to the right or to the left of you, so you just want to go down here. And there are a couple of ways you can go here. You can go in this direction, or you can go in this direction. I'll show you what each direction kind of entails. Both of them can send you to the goal here, so you can kind of do this down right flick or hold. And just also note that if you kind of full send at different places, you'll need to hold down right in different places as well. So if you kind of hold up from the back of the platform here, you're going to need to hold down left before, or down right before you get off the platform. If you sort of hold up here, then you're going to need to hold down right in the air, and then this is where the goal is. Additionally, if you take the other direction here, you sort of fall on these, and it's a little bit more of like a right and down right here, so I can show a right input can work there as well if you want. And this is certainly faster, so if this is something you're just as comfortable with or more comfortable with, then I would recommend this a little bit more because it saves more time, but I thought I would show off both of those as well. Additionally, there are a lot of skips that you could do on the stage, and the first one that comes to mind here is just a very simple, you go on this first, second, and third platform and just kind of go off to the left. You want to make that adjustment like pretty small. You don't want to make that, you don't want to like hold left or anything. I'll sort of show you what happens. As you saw, I saved like 18 seconds over the previous strat that went that way. So if you kind of go a little bit farther, you can miss. So if you're gonna do the skip, I just make sure that it's a very slight kind of tap off, if that makes sense. And then sort of align your camera and then make that adjustment accordingly. Additionally, if you go off the right side there, you can land on the other platform, which gives you the faster ending. But if you're gonna go ahead and do that, you might as well do a fuller skip. So I'll sort of show you what that looks like. You could just fall off earlier, and then you could sort of do the same thing here. You could end up getting a 52 if you optimize it a little bit more. So once again, let me show you a little bit of an optimized version of this where you could sort of like skip that middle platform here and then just land there. There's just so many different skips that you could do. Really, it's whatever you're most comfortable with. And there are a couple that are a little bit more advanced that I'm not showing you, but those are just some strats that I recommend for disorder. Now for 3D maze, I'm going to go and show off the casual strat here. And really sort of the gimmick of this stage is that there's a maze that is just kind of rotating over and over again, and it's sort of hard to know where to go at the beginning. So first you want to go to the left of this thing here, and it's sort of a narrow path, so I'll show you sort of, you can get on here a little bit early and it'll just naturally bring you to the left there. And then you want to go more towards the left side here, go down, and then you want to end up on the right side here. Now I'm going to set a save state here just for future reference, and if you're going to do the casual strat, you can kind of go down here, and then you want to switch over to here as fast as possible and then send it to the goal. Really, that's sort of like a difficult way of going about it. I think there is an easier way to do it, and I'll show you that a little bit later. But if you do want to take your time here, you could just send it to the goal here. Just make sure that you're holding the analog stick in the direction of the goal. Now for this strat, I just sort of hold up left at like 40 and then kind of hold up a little bit, and you could get to the goal as well. I think this is much easier and it saves a lot of time. You could even hold up left a little bit earlier here, and if you hold up left sort of at 41.0, then that's the only input that you really need to hold there. Just make sure that you're sort of at the edge of this platform here. So you see that's really the only input I'm holding until I land there. A way where you fail is if you hold 41.0 at a different portion of the 3D maze. So as you see, I'm kind of going down here and then holding up left. It's going to be different timing per place. So I just recommend you sort of stay at the back here and then use the timing that I'm using. However, if you find something that's a lot more comfortable for you, I would highly recommend that then. But really, these are only the two strats that I would recommend. Now for Labyrinth, this is sort of a stage that you just need to know the path here, and also note that the camera is a little bit different. It's in Monkey Ball 1 camera and not Monkey Ball 2 camera, so just know that for whatever reason this stage is in Monkey Ball 1 camera. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the casual strat here, and once again, I wouldn't really recommend the casual strat. There's a faster and sort of easier way to complete the stage, and I'll show you that as well. You're going to want to go up this right ramp here, and then you're going to need speed. So if you go too slow, you're not going to land on the blue platform. I barely clipped it there, but you just want to make sure that you get enough speed to go over it, and then you're sort of at the end of the stage here. And then really a lot of people struggle with this because they don't have enough momentum to go up the hill, and then they really get stuck on this. I think that's sort of the main issue of the stage. So let me go ahead and show you how I would go about it. I'd go about it at this last back kind of corner here. A lot of people use the corner before it. However, I would use this back platform because you just get more speed. I'll go ahead and show you where the goal is. You just kind of drop down there and get into the goal like that. However, there is a skip that I think is easier and it's faster, so I'll go ahead and show that off as well. So what you can kind of do here is you go up sort of the same way as you would for the casual strat, and then you could sort of kind of wait here and then full send over. You're gonna get a clip there. So just know that you're gonna get a clip there, and it might send you in a few different directions, but as long as you're going full speed, you will get over it. Once again, I go at this back platform here to sort of get up there, and once again, even if you hold up left a little bit early and you sort of like bonk off the platform or bonk off of that corner, you will still get up. So I like that back corner a lot more than the back corner sort of in front of it. And additionally, if you don't like going for that clip, like you just don't like the collision it's giving you for whatever reason, I'll show you a similar way to do the skip. It'll lose a little bit of time over the main skip here, but it'll still get you over. So you kind of will go back here and you sort of like hug this corner here and then you just bounce over. So once again, you just get a little bit of momentum here. You sort of hug that corner and then you bounce over and then complete the stage like you would if you did the skip. A way you would fail this is like if you go too early and you kind of clip the side there. It is pretty lenient though, so you could even go off a little bit earlier there, like I did. Like you can just ride this entire ramp and you'll still have enough speed to get over. However, you fail that and you fail the skip earlier if you don't full send it. So you do need to go pretty fast there, and once again, just using this momentum to get to the goal here. Now for postmodern, a lot of people get stuck here mainly because they just can't get up the stairs fast enough or at all. So kind of what they do, they sort of like try and line it up and then they try and go up. As you see, this is really just not working here, so I'll show you sort of how I would go about it originally. So I'd sort of separate myself from the stairs and then get a lot of speed here and then get up. And then there's one particular staircase in general that a lot of people get stuck on, and I'll go ahead and show you why that is as well. It's going to be this next staircase here, and people sort of go on this stair and they just like don't know how to get up. Additionally, you can go on a stair below, and it's just very hard to get up here. So I'll sort of show you what I would recommend. You just hold up in the side of the stair, and then you could get up there. And then you could kind of go to the back of the stair and then hold left and up left, and that'll sort of get you up that staircase. So I'll show that off. Again, you need a little bit of speed, and then you sort of hold left and up left there. If it doesn't work, you could just kind of try again, and usually it'll send you up. However, if that's not really working for you, you could just sort of hold up left into the stair and it'll give you some more momentum. I'd actually recommend that a lot more if you're comfortable with it, so hold up and then up left. Additionally, a way that you fail this is if you hold up left too early, and if you hold up left into the second stair, you're not going to go anywhere. If you hold up left too late, kind of like this, you can just get sent in different directions there and you'll have to retry. So make sure you're going to be holding up left into that. If you get stuck there, once again, just go to the back of the stair and then sort of like hold like a bottom diagonal into a top diagonal. So once again, like holding up just doesn't really work sometimes if you have to save if you have to save it, you have to sort of go like down left and up left, if you see what I did there. So I'll sort of show off this kind of full attempt here, and then I'll show you where the goal is as well. And once again, I would recommend kind of switching in between up left and up right to get up these stairs. It is a little bit faster if you are comfortable with it. And then here's the goal platform. Make sure you safely transfer here because you really don't want to bonk off of this platform. This stage takes so long. So really you don't want to bonk off of that. And sort of holding up left or up right into the side of the staircase works for every staircase here, so I'll sort of show you what a little bit more of an optimized postmodern looks like here. And I kind of got blessed with some good collision there. Even if it doesn't give you good collision, it will save time. So just note that if you are comfortable with that sort of mechanic, then really you can save a lot of time. As you saw, I got a 35 there. I optimized the ending as well, but you really don't need to do that. Just make sure that when you're going about this stage, you separate yourself from the staircase and you hold a lot of kind of up and upright, up left going into it. And then for this one specific staircase, I would try and learn this, but if you can't, I'd sort of just hold up into it and then sort of like swing down left and up left there in order to get up. And I'll show you sort of the optimized ending once again. There's sort of the easier ending, which you sort of line up here and just fall down, but you can just kind of go here and then hold up into the goal as well, but I wouldn't worry about that for a while. Now for Revolution, there's really only one strat that I would recommend here. So you sort of go to the end of this platform, and then you sort of have to hold a lot of left, and then down when you're lining up with this beam, and then you're going to wait for it to sort of rotate one more time here, and then you're going to get to the goal. As you see though, it does rotate, so just make sure you get in the goal before 44 seconds here. And then I'll sort of show you, I wanted to view stage there, sort of show you what this looks like here. Just kind of rotates this way, and then it'll rotate upside down. And it starts upside down. So it's going to start upside down here as you see the goal sort of upside down, and then it's going to rotate once. And you want to be on this specific beam, and then it's going to rotate again, and it's going to face upwards, and then you just go left, and then you get into the goal there. So for Invisible, this is a really frustrating stage because it's hard to know where to go. So it's really hard to know where to go, so I'm just going to show off the way to complete the stage often here. So you're going to swerve kind of in and out, kind of back and forth. You're going to do that 3 times in the beginning, and then you're going to see this bunch, and then you're going to need to go here, and then you're going to need to go there, and then you're going to need to make another corner transfer here. And then when you see this bunch over there, you're going to go back here. You're going to go forward for 2 of these invisible squares, and you're going to go right, or left, excuse me, and then you're going to collect that bunch, and then you're going to go up here and sort of swing in and out once. Go to the end of the platform, and then go up here, and then you're going to go in the middle, and you're on the E here. So now a way that's really good to tell whether or not you're going to be going onto a platform other than dying is if you go towards the edge. So if you really slowly like go towards the edge, you're still trying to learn here, and you see the monkey kind of like try and balance and make those falling noises, that means that that's a hole. And if he doesn't there and he just starts kind of walking in the same way, then you know that it's an actual platform. So as you see just the difference between those two, so I'm going to go ahead and do the stage again just so that you're able to see the full path. So once again, you go here, you kind of swing in and out 3 times. And you don't need the best movement, once again, to be able to complete this on time. You just need to know the path. And once again, go 2 invisible squares forward, 2 invisible squares left, then turn around to the banana bunch there. You can also use the mini-map to see where that banana bunch is. And you're going to swing in and out again. Then you're going to go up here, and then you're going to go in the middle of this E, collect the bunch, and get it to the goal. Now for the final stage in the run created by, there are a couple of ways you could do this stage. You can hold up into the button, and then you're going to kind of ride the A there, and sort of hop onto the goal. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. I'll make a save state here, and you see the A is kind of like going down. If you go too early here like I am, you're just gonna fall off the back end. And really, like, you hop onto the A a little bit later than you think, so kind of right about like now. And then you want to be a little bit more towards the front, and then you see the tail kind of flick out there. That's when you want to go on. So once again, you want to be a little bit more towards the front because you can just hold down and you can be saved. Excuse me there. So I'll sort of show you what that looks like once again. So I'm going to purposely go a little bit far here, and then I'm going to hold down, and then I could still be saved if I have enough momentum to get into the goal there. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're going to do this strat. However, I'm going to recommend a strat that's a little bit faster and, in my opinion, a little bit easier than the casual way to complete this. So I'll show that off as well. You purposely miss the button. So you do not hit the button here. And the way you kind of complete this is you're going to bounce once on each letter and then land on that last platform. So I'll show off what that looks like. So bounce, bounce, and then you're just going to kind of swing around here and then land. And you can really take your time with the landing as well. So bounce, bounce, and then swing out. As you see, I'm sort of doing an up right into an up left, and then a down left, and then a little bit of down as well. Sort of the way you just fail the strat is just by miscalculating where the bottom platform is. Really, you do see it pretty early. However, some people go upright like way too far here, and then it's a lot harder to make this landing. Some people just kind of do this, and then they sort of get stuck in the V here. So just make sure you're wrapping around the V, just kind of like at least sort of tightly here, and then you can go ahead and get into the goal. So that is my Super Monkey Ball 2 Story Mode All Levels tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope that there was a lot of helpful information. I hope the input display was helpful as well. And really, I know you just can put a lot of work into this and you're going to get a lot faster than you are currently. And I'm really excited to see what this brings you in the future.